This young man just fell from the sky. Somehow he landed right on the back of a three-headed wolf, making its mother furious. Realizing the dangerous situation, the young man ran for his life, but didn't forget to turn back and curse. "Damn you! Didn't I just accidentally transmigrate and fall into a wolf's den, giving you a little scare? Do you really have to hold such a grudge?" His name was Liu Feng. Having just transmigrated, Liu Feng was unlucky enough to be chased by a three-headed wolf. Facing their powerful storm-like attacks, he felt that just running wasn't a solution, but he wasn't willing to die so senselessly right after arriving. Focused on running without watching his path, Liu Feng tripped and fell, his fair face scraping hard against the ground, nearly disfiguring him. Meanwhile, the wolf also stopped. Then all three of its heads tilted back and let out a piercing howl. The next second, a giant ball of energy formed in the wolf's mouth and flew straight toward the unlucky young man. He was so scared he almost pooped his pants, and without a second thought, he bolted again. Just then, a mantra suddenly flashed through Liu Feng's mind. Huaxia Internal Arts Endless Wondrous Uses. Walk like a gust of wind, strike with a sword like a rainbow. Triple the strength, triple the speed. He immediately recognized it as the mantra for the Huaxia Internal Arts he had practiced since he was a child. Its name seemed to be Tat Fong Bo. He just didn't know why this suddenly appeared in his subconscious. Immediately after, a surge of power suddenly rose within his body. Liu Feng didn't have time to think and could only take a gamble. So following his instincts, he successfully activated that power and vanished just before the wolf's attack could hit him. When he reappeared, he was in a different location. It was the power of Tat Fong Bo that helped him escape the enemy's relentless pursuit. Liu Feng panted, feeling both lucky and confused. The Huaxia Internal Arts he had practiced since childhood had never worked. So why did it become so powerful after he transmigrated here? However, before this unlucky young man could even catch his breath, he suddenly saw a dark shadow fall over him. This feeling was too familiar, it seemed no different from before. The only difference was that this time he had provoked a one-headed monster instead of a three-headed one. But the thing standing behind him now looked even more terrifying than the three-headed wolf from earlier. It only let out a single roar, and the young man was already trembling with fear. With all his will to survive, he had to run and run once again. If they could communicate, he lamented that he couldn't kneel and flatter the monster to spare him. But since that wasn't possible, he could only run for his life. Unfortunately, this time he couldn't activate Tat Fong Bu, and could only run with his own strength. Then Liu Feng ran through a bush and fell off a cliff. Coincidentally, there was a girl right where he was about to land. Although he shouted loudly, "Get out of the way!" his falling speed was much faster than the girl's reaction speed. As a result, Liu Feng landed headfirst, pinning the other person down in a very awkward position. Her figure gave him a nosebleed, while the girl couldn't hide her embarrassment and panic from being in such close contact with a strange boy. As a result, Liu Feng got a slap from her, along with a sharp curse. "Pervert!" She was about to hit him again, but the terrifying monster had already caught up. Seeing it charge down aggressively, Liu Feng didn't think twice and quickly pushed the girl away, not wanting her to get involved because of him. But because of that, he was hit by the monster. When its large claws scratched his back, Liu Feng's vision blurred. He had transmigrated here with his whole body. He wondered if he would be able to transmigrate back to Earth if he got eaten. Fortunately, Liu Feng wasn't eaten by the monster, because a third person appeared right after and struck it with a large, powerful sword. And the girl Liu Feng had just pushed away ran over, happily calling out, "Grandpa!" "Vinny, are you all right?" the older man asked. "I'm so clever, of course nothing would happen to me. However, it seems there was someone else here just now," Vinny replied. Just then she noticed Liu Feng lying flat on the ground, covered in blood, not in good condition at all. Her grandfather said he would finish off the Black Panther and left Liu Feng for her to handle. But Vinny was flustered and didn't know what to do other than help him up, anxiously calling out, "Hey, are you okay? Can you open your eyes?" Liu Feng was half-conscious but could still feel his cheek pressed against the young woman's soft chest, and he couldn't help but grin. "It hurts like hell, but dying to protect a cute girl like you is worth it," he replied. After saying these words, Liu Feng quickly lost consciousness. In his daze, he seems to feel his body become weightless, floating amidst countless specks of light. And then Liu Feng saw memories from his childhood. Back then, when he first started cultivating Huaxia Internal Arts, he was ridiculed by other children who said he'd watched too many wuxia novels and gone crazy. A little older Liu Feng saw himself being rudely rejected by a girl. The beautiful rose he gave her was thrown right back at him, its thorns scratching his face, and he had to listen to her hurl many insults. Just like that, Liu Feng had no friends and no girlfriend. He started immersing himself in online games. After all, only online could he find people to talk to. At the internet cafe, young people would whisper about Liu Feng, calling him the god who lived in the game room for a whole month. To put it more harshly, a loser who only deserves to hide here and be useless. These rumors eventually reached Liu Feng's ears. In fact, he also realized that living like this was too pathetic. Then Liu Feng heard someone constantly calling his name and shaking him awake. "Hey, you lazy worm, get up. If you don't get up, I'll get rough, you lazy bum. Are you going to get up or not?" Liu Feng recognized it as the voice of a girl that was both familiar and strange. He slowly opened his eyes and vaguely saw someone standing in front of him. Not fully awake, Liu Feng unconsciously reached out and grabbed this person as if grasping a life-saving straw. And his action caused the girl to lose her balance and end up falling on top of him. The two of them stared at each other once again in this embarrassing position. This time it was Liu Feng who blushed with embarrassment. First quickly pushing Vinny away, then apologizing to her, explaining that he had just dreamt of unpleasant past events, and got a little agitated. Before their blushes could fade, they heard a loud shout. "Liu Feng, you little brat, get your butt down here and work for me." Upon hearing this, Vinny anxiously pushed Liu Feng off the bed. "We're in trouble. Grandpa is about to get really angry. You'd better tidy up and come down. I even bought you new clothes. Go wash your face." Liu Feng kept saying, "Okay, okay," and then hurriedly got out of bed. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, he had been in this world for half a month, but he still couldn't get used to the pace of life here. That's understandable. Liu Feng was clearly just a teenager addicted to gaming at an internet cafe. Then, with the worst luck, he got caught in a computer explosion due to a short circuit, becoming a member of the Male Protagonist Transmigration Association and transmigrated to this Dalan Dailuk. As everyone saw, he was chased by a magical beast as soon as he arrived, but luckily he was saved by Vinny and Kak, who also took him home. During this half-month, Liu Feng learned a little about the new world he was living in. On the Dalan Dailuk, anyone can cultivate Dojian magic. People are divided into 11 levels based on their strength. From level 9 onwards, one can be called a Grandmaster. Level 10 is the Saint level, and the highest is the Supreme level. It is said that there are even higher levels in the legends, but no one has ever reached them. Most people here are at level 3 to level 4, while Grandpa Kak is already a level 5 great swordsman. Vinny is even more impressive. She is a Saint student, meaning a talented student who has the potential to reach the Saint level within 4 years, and is directly recruited into the academy of one of the 4 saints. As for Liu Feng in his old world, he was just a good-for-nothing passionately pursuing Huaxia internal arts since childhood, something that sounded like a scam from the get-go. Yet as a child he truly believed it, considering it a divine art, and trained especially hard with no results whatsoever. Who would have thought that the heavens would take pity on him when Liu Feng died on Earth and transmigrated? He was able to use that internal art. However, the Huaxia internal art is completely different from the powers of this world. That made Liu Feng doubt whether he could continue to use it for cultivation. The earth he used to live on was too painful, so after transmigrating to this world, Liu Feng had no regrets at all. Besides, he now had another concern here. Just as he thought of this, Liu Feng's new concern appeared. Vinny, looking impatient, held a new set of clothes and pushed them at him. "Hey, what are you dawdling for? Hurry up and change into the new clothes." After Liu Feng changed, she couldn't stop admiring him. "Wow, you really look handsome in these clothes. Even someone like you looks a bit like a mercenary wearing them." "Are you complimenting me or insulting me?" Liu Feng asked, grumpily, but was only met with a giggle from her. Seeing him struggle with the buttons, Vinny personally helped him adjust his clothes. Although she kept grumbling and calling Liu Feng an idiot, her actions were very gentle. Seeing how beautiful, lovely and kind she was to him, how could someone like him, who had lacked affection since childhood, not be moved? Vinay and Grandpa Kakak's home is a tavern, and it's a very busy one at that. Today, like any other day, they went down to the first floor early in the morning to help Kakak. Vinny was in charge of serving food, while Liu Feng cleared the cups and mugs of customers who had finished eating and drinking. Seeing him carry a large basin of cups each time, Vinny was very worried. "Be careful, don't carry so many glasses at once. What if you fall? There are too many customers. If I don't quickly take these dirty glasses out, Grandpa will kill me," Liu Feng replied with a smile. Kak watched them intently from a distance and noticed the somewhat romantic atmosphere. His eyebrows furrowed, and then he grumbled, "That little brat!" A while after all the customers had left, Liu Feng also finished cleaning up. He couldn't help but stretch. With this frequency and workload, he was afraid he'd get a herniated disc before he could even master his cultivation. Vinny came out from inside, flicked him painfully on the forehead, and then scolded, "Are you stupid? Why would you carry so many cups and mugs at once? Aren't you afraid you'll fall and get a swollen head? How that hurts." Liu Feng rubbed his forehead. "Wasn't it because I thought carrying them all out at once would save more time? The wound from this magical beast's scratch has barely healed, and you're already neglecting your health again." "How can you be so foolish?" Vinny said resentfully. Then she brought up the past. You were just as foolish in the forest back then. We were clearly strangers, yet you saved me. Weren't you afraid of dying? At that time I just wanted to save someone, so I didn't think too much about it. Anyway, compared to me, your life is definitely more important. Liu Feng replied, rubbing his nose. After all, for someone like me with no family and a lowly fate who would care if I died anyway. His words sounded so tragic, but Vinny became red-faced with anger after hearing them. She shouted, "You're not allowed to say that." "I would care. From this day on, I am your family," Vinny affirmed resolutely. These words might seem easy to say, but for Liu Feng, who heard them, it was not a simple matter at all. It was the first time in his long life that he had a family. This feeling was truly joyful, so happy that he felt like he could fly. Liu Feng couldn't hide his smile. "Okay, thank you." But their happy atmosphere didn't last long before it was interrupted by a short man who one could tell was a noble at a glance. He rudely pointed at Liu Feng's face and shouted, "Hey, where did you little brat come from? If you know what's good for you, stay away from my fiancée, Vinny." Liu Feng felt as if he had been slapped hard across the face. He anxiously turned to the person beside him and asked, "Hey, Vinny, he says you're his fiancée, is that true?" Vinny immediately denied it, then told Liu Feng to go back inside first so she could handle this herself. However, that shorty didn't want things to pass so easily. Before Liu Feng could leave, he spoke provocatively. "Vinny, who is this? Is he a handyman that Grandpa Kakak just hired? You are an outstanding Saint student personally recognized by Headmaster Landi of Lamtin Academy. Don't associate with this kind of person. It will affect your status. This is a guest of my family. It's none of your business." "I'll say it again. Lei Nua, I will not get engaged to you," Vinny shouted in a high voice, looking extremely frustrated. It seemed this guy named Lei Nua had bothered her before. It seemed that because Liu Feng was present, Vinny's public rejection was even more damaging. Lei Nua was furious, but his subordinates beside him quickly advised him, "Young master, don't get angry, don't forget what the master told you." So Lei Nua had to swallow his anger, then forced a smile and continued, "Vinny, don't be angry. I'm just afraid you'll be deceived by this person of unknown origin. But speaking of the engagement, why do you keep refusing? After all, the lord of this city is my father." As soon as these words were spoken, the one who was shocked was Liu Feng. He didn't expect the short guy in front of him to be the city lord's son, a glorious status completely opposite to an orphan like him. But Vinny seemed used to his showing off and didn't pay him any mind. She pulled Liu Feng, wanting to take him inside. Seeing this, Lei Nua continued, "Vinny, don't forget, as long as you marry me, you will have my father's support. You will also have capital when you study at Lamtin Academy. Lamtin Academy gathers so many elites, and they all come from noble families. An ordinary person like you can't compare. You don't want to be forced to become a poor beggar in front of those rich kids, do you?" What Lei Nua said was harsh, but it was all true. Vinny was so angry she was speechless. And this time Liu Feng's sharp tongue had to step in. He stood in front of Vinny and boldly scolded the other party. "A despicable villain like you dares to use your family background to force Vinny to marry you. You're just trying to humiliate her." This time Lei Nua's subordinates drew their swords, reasoning that Liu Feng wasn't worth arguing with. This reaction from his subordinates pleased Lei Nua greatly. He even carefully instructed them not to take Liu Feng's life too quickly because he wanted him to know the price of opposing him. Then, under the short guy's command, the knights all charged forward at once. Seeing the enemy completely overwhelm him in numbers, Liu Feng had no intention of fighting them head-on from the start. Instead, he grabbed Vinny's hand tightly and used Tatfongbo to get her out of the knights' encirclement. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Lei Nua and provoked him. "You think you people can deal with me? A young master like you only knows how to bully others all day. Besides having many lackeys, what other abilities do you have, you stupid, scummy hooligan?" Furious, Lei Nua raised the sword in his hand. He wanted to defeat Liu Feng himself. At that moment, he let go of Vinny's hand and rushed towards his opponent as fast as lightning. Liu Feng used Tatfongbo flexibly. In an instant, he who was standing in front of the short guy now appeared behind him. "What's wrong? Did I hit a nerve making you angry out of embarrassment?" Liu Feng continued to provoke, and Lei Nua became even more furious. While dodging Lei Nua's attacks, he mocked his swordsmanship as being too poor, saying he probably couldn't even touch a single hair on his body. After feeling he had provoked his opponent enough, Liu Feng suddenly turned around to counterattack. His punch was so fast that Lei Nua's knights could only blink and watch. It didn't stop there. After dealing with the short guy, Liu Feng turned to settle the score with his subordinates. Compared to their useless young master, this group was considered quite skilled. But even with swords, they couldn't avoid being knocked down by Liu Feng, all of them lying scattered on the ground. Even after wiping out the opponents, Liu Feng still found it hard to believe. Tatfongbo was truly powerful. Tripling both strength and speed was no joke. Immediately after, he felt another surge of power rising within his body. This feeling was unmistakable. It was the internal energy of the Huaxia internal arts. Having internal energy meant he had officially entered the primary stage of this technique. Indeed, actual combat is the fastest way to become stronger. Liu Feng just didn't know what level of power on the Dalan Dailuk he was currently equivalent to. Liu Feng, not bad, I didn't realize you were so powerful. Vini came over and praised him. Hehehe, Liu Feng replied with a shy smile. I think I might have gone a bit too far. Lei Nuo's father is the city lord, he won't come to cause trouble for us, will he? Vini didn't look scared at all. Besides, Lei Nuo's group were the ones who started it. She said that if his father dared to come and cause trouble, she would dare to tell Headmaster Landi. After Vini said this, Liu Feng felt relieved. Then he pulled her hand and snuck away. Otherwise Kak Kak would get angry if he saw so many unconscious people piled up in front of the tavern. The moment he held her hand and pulled her away, a strange feeling arose in Vini's heart. Liu Feng clearly had neither doji nor magic, yet he gave her such a sense of security. However, Vini also sensed something unusual just now. Liu Feng didn't cultivate doji or have magic yet. He could move freely under the blades of a group of level 4 or higher fighters, not to mention knocking them back. Just that instantaneous movement technique alone was not normal at all. This made Vini wonder who Liu Feng really was. But in any case, she could sense that Liu Feng had no ill intentions towards her, so his identity wasn't actually that important. Just then Vini had an idea, so she grabbed Liu Feng's hand tightly and said, Let's go to the market fair. I heard there are a lot of new things there today. As you command, my lady Vini. On the way, Vini saw Liu Feng smiling constantly and asked curiously, Liu Feng, why do you look so happy today? Liu Feng kept smiling but didn't plan to tell her that he was happy because he had successfully grasped how to use the new internal energy of the Huaxia internal arts. After all, even if he told her, Vini might not understand. She only needed to know that from now on Liu Feng could protect her better. When he said this, Liu Feng, whether intentionally or not, moved closer to Vini. This distance was so close that the girl couldn't help but blush crimson. In the end, Liu Feng got slapped across the face again. Despite being hit by a beautiful girl, Liu Feng's spirits were still high. After all, mastering the internal energy of his power, which laid the foundation for his future growth, was still something to be happy about. After returning from the market fair, Liu Feng ran to the tavern, threw open the main door and said loudly, Grandpa, Kak Kak, we're back. But the scene inside the tavern froze him in place. Kak Kak was covered in wounds, his face smeared with blood, and most importantly, he was being lifted off the ground by a man's grip on his throat. The tavern was also littered with dead bodies and broken swords. A single glance was enough to understand that a fierce brawl had just taken place here. Vini, running right behind Liu Feng, trembled uncontrollably upon seeing this scene. Kak Kak saw her and tremblingly cried out, Run! Well, because that man was Lady Lei Nuo's father, and also the Lord of Matan City. Vini, long time no see her. Lei Ding looked towards the main door and gave a provocative smile. At this moment, Lei Nuo, standing behind him, peeked out and aggressively pointed at Liu Feng. Father, it's him. He was the one who humiliated me, and he also said our family is full of trash, and that he should be the next city lord. This short guy was really good at exaggerating and making things worse. But it was true that Liu Feng had offended him, so it wasn't impossible for Lei Nuo and his father to come for revenge. He just couldn't stomach the fact that Lei Nuo, also a man, could shamelessly make up such stories. How dare you humiliate my son? You definitely won't leave here in one piece, Lei Nuo said through gritted teeth. Liu Feng didn't have time to think. While shouting for Lei Ding to release Kak Kak, he had already balled his fists and charged forward. Seeing this, Lei Nuo quickly hid behind his father. Lei Ding had never seen Liu Feng's moves before, but to him this speed was still too slow. Lei Ding was seen leisurely raising a finger and tapping it right in the center of Liu Feng's forehead. He was astonished, bewildered, then panicked. Why? Why was the instantaneous speed of that Fengbo seen through? He had used it against Lei Nuo's knights just fine earlier. Could this Lei Ding guy be that powerful? His right hand still held Kak Kak's throat tightly, yet he could casually knock Liu Feng away with just the index finger of his left hand. He was immediately buried alive in a pile of rubble. Seeing this, Vini gritted her teeth in anger. She swore she would report the crimes of the Lei father and son to her teacher. However, after hearing this, Lei Ding just gave a mocking smile. What a pity, I'm afraid you won't have the chance to see your teacher again. At first I thought about establishing a relationship with one of the 4 saints through you, but since you don't know what's good for you, I might as well take your little life. After all, the dead can't snitch. Lei Ding's next target was Vini. Even from a distance he could attack her like a storm. Vini was bound by Lei Ding's power and lifted high into the air. Her throat was squeezed tightly, making it impossible to breathe, let alone chant a spell to resist. How could Liu Feng bear to witness both Kak and Vini being so brutally beaten? And so despite his body being battered from the previous blow, he charged forward, rushing straight at Lei Din. "Damn it, stop!" After Liu Feng's shout, the bastard actually did stop. He threw Kak in his hand towards him. Liu Feng caught him, but before he could react, a sword suddenly appeared in Lei Din's hand. On his face now was a terrifyingly fake smile. Then Lei Din waved his hand and the sword shot forward. "Kid, let me go!" Kak shouted. Immediately after, Liu Feng could feel a hot liquid spraying onto his face. It was the blood of the old man who had taken him in when he transmigrated here. Lei Din's blade had pierced through Kak's chest. His eyes rolled back and his whole body trembled. One didn't need to guess to know he was in great pain. Yet Kak still tried to stand up. "Go, I'll try to hold him back. You take Vini and run. You are no match for him," he said, then turned his back to Liu Feng to face Lei Din, the sword still embedded in his chest. In Lei Din's eyes, Kak's dying struggle was even more of an eyesore. Liu Feng stared tensely at his hand, only to see Lei Din's fingers suddenly clench, as if squeezing his own heart. Fresh blood continued to spurt out, this time soaking the ground. Kak's large body was torn into many pieces by Lei Din's sword. Liu Feng, at a very close distance, witnessed this terrifying scene himself, his eyes wide open without a single blink. And Vini, though a bit farther away, still had to watch as her grandfather's life was ended by Lei Din. "No!" she screamed. With extreme resentment and grief, Vini began to fly up and break free from Lei Din's control. However, it was only a momentary shock. Lei Din's face showed no sign of losing composure, proving that the situation was still within his control. As expected of a saint student, but that's all there is to it. Saying that, Lei Din increased his power once again, choking Vini and causing her to lose control. Meanwhile, Liu Feng tried to sneak attack him from behind, but was spotted by the shorty Lei Nuo, who warned his father. So once again, Liu Feng was also sent flying by Lei Din. His whole body slammed into the wall, and then he was tightly bound hand and foot by him. Lei Din snorted coldly. "Fine, but don't be in such a hurry to reincarnate. You still have to watch the final grand performance." With that, Lei Din turned to his son and continued, "Lei Nuo, haven't you always wanted her? But only a fool wouldn't understand the meaning behind these words." In addition, upon hearing this, Lei Nuo's face turned red, his eyes lit up, and he looked at Vini like a hungry wolf seeing raw meat. Lei Din then lowered her to the ground right in front of his son. "All right, she's yours now." Lei Ana was so excited he couldn't stop clapping, his ravenous look impossible to hide. Liu Feng was extremely angry, shouting, "Lei No, if you dare touch Vini, I will definitely turn you to dust." If it were the Liu Feng from a few hours ago who single-handedly swept through a whole team of knights, perhaps Lei Nuo would have been afraid. But now he was tightly bound by his father, unable to move. How could these words have any power to threaten the opponent? Lei Na approached, pinned down Vini, who was biting her lip and crying silently, then looked at Liu Feng with a provocative gaze. "You piece of trash, what's the use of just cursing? If you have the guts, come and stop me." Vini was completely unable to resist, despite using all her strength. That short guy began to tear her clothes off roughly. "Ha, don't pretend to be so noble. You think just because you're a saint student I can't have you." "Bastard, don't touch me, get lost," Vini shouted. Liu Feng's anger reached its peak, and he actually managed to break free from Lei Din's control. However, just as Liu Feng charged forward, his finger rose again. It was the same motion of tapping the center of his forehead, carrying an immense suppressive power. "A little impressive, but still too weak," Lei Din declared. "You see, so what if she has the talent of a saint student? Before becoming a true saint level, she's just a piece of meat for ants to devour. As for the teacher Vini wanted to snitch to earlier, I'll say that a brat of unknown origin came to harm her, and then I'll hand your head over to him." "Sound reasonable," Lei Din said with a laugh, and Liu Feng finally understood why Lei No could be so shameless and despicable. This personality was completely inherited from his father. He was so angry he was speechless. And now it seemed Lei Din truly had killing intent towards him. However, at the very moment Lei Din wanted to take Liu Feng's life, he heard his son's blood-curdling scream. When he turned his head, he saw Lei Nuo had been thrown aside by Vini and was lying motionless. And Vini was now standing in front of her, was a crystal emitting a dazzling blue light. Her face was covered in tears with an expression of utter despair and anguish. "Liu Feng, don't worry," Vini reassured him through her tears. Lei Ting hurriedly let go of Liu Feng because he noticed a more serious matter at that moment, which was that Vini wanted to self-destruct. "Stop her now," he shouted. But who was going to stop Vini? Was it his useless son Lei Nuo didn't have this ability? So it was still only Lei Ting who rushed towards her. But at this moment it seemed Vini's self-destruction process had already begun. Her whole body curled up like the fetal position, surrounded by an incredibly dazzling aura. Liu Feng didn't know exactly what would happen next, only that it was definitely not something good. He reached out his hand to grab Vini but couldn't, and kept calling her name. Liu Feng, it was really nice knowing you. Please live on. Vinny said to him with a desperate smile. Liu Feng roared her name and rushed forward, but he only managed to grab one of Vinny's hair ties. With a loud boom, a huge explosion was created. Lei Ting had managed to grab Lei Nuo in time, and the father and son were safely protected within a sturdy barrier. As for the tavern, it had been turned into a desolate pile of rubble by the explosion. When Liu Feng came to his senses, he found himself holding one of Vinny's hair ties, appearing in the middle of a forest. It seemed that his survival instinct had helped him activate the swift wind steps and escape the explosion. Liu Feng clenched the hair tie in his hand and tears began to stream down his face. Vinny and Geke were the ones who saved him and gave him shelter when he arrived here, but today both of them had lost their lives. Along with extreme sadness, boundless resentment also grew in Liu Feng's heart. He swore that he would definitely chop the Lei father and son into 100 pieces to avenge Geke and Vinny for what happened today. Liu Feng only knew that he was in a forest right now, but he didn't know exactly where. He wanted to go back for revenge immediately, but just as he turned around, he suddenly felt the sky and earth tremble. A fireball had just been thrown down from the sky, burning a whole patch of grass to ashes. Liu Feng looked up and saw a large black dragon being pursued by several men. They joined forces to attack, but the dragon's power was also incredibly terrifying. After knocking down a man in a red cloak, the dragon suddenly stared intently at Liu Feng. At first it thought he was an ambush, so it intended to crush him in one move. However, upon getting closer, this black dragon felt that something wasn't quite right. From the scent on Liu Feng, the black dragon recognized that he was from Earth, so it immediately stopped its attack. Not only that, the dragon even turned back to protect Liu Feng from the group's attack, to the point that it was hit by a golden arrow with great piercing power, bleeding profusely. That was an arrow shot from the dragon-slaying bow with immense destructive power. Liu Feng was covered in the dragon's blood, but he didn't care about that. Instead, Liu Feng just wondered why this black dragon had saved him. The black dragon probably wanted to explain, but it was currently under constant attack from that group, so it didn't have a free moment. Now that they saw Liu Feng with the dragon, they immediately assumed he was on the same side, so they launched an attack on both with the aim of stealing the dragon egg. A dozen people charged forward at once, each possessing a different skill, but their simultaneous attack created an effect that dazzled Liu Feng. Despite facing such incredible firepower, the dragon stubbornly spread its wings, protecting Liu Feng completely, not letting him get even slightly injured. Liu Feng became more and more astonished, especially upon seeing the ferocity of the group's attacks. He couldn't think of a reason why the black dragon would want to protect him. Then Liu Feng suddenly heard the dragon speak. "Kid, listen to me. I'll hold them off, you go first." These words stunned Liu Feng because they reminded him of Grandpa Geke before he died. Liu Feng's mind exploded with a single persistent question: why was he always the one being protected? Why did people have to sacrifice their lives to protect him? So as the group prepared to attack again and the black dragon was ready to fight, something suddenly snapped in Liu Feng's head as if it was the thread of his sanity. Liu Feng let out a loud shout, "No!" His shout was like the desperate roar of a cornered beast. Then Liu Feng's whole body suddenly flew up as a terrifying power surged towards the sky. At this moment he seemed to have completely lost his mind. His eyes were pure white and his face and neck were covered with blood vessels. At this moment the dragon's blood entered his body. His meridians cleared on their own. His chi became vast like the sea, and his body became incomparably resilient. Even the black dragon was extremely shocked to see this scene. And then, before it could react, Liu Feng charged straight at those who were attacking it. "You bastards, die!" Seeing Liu Feng so bloodthirsty, the group didn't feel scared at all, simply because they felt his fighting style was so chaotic that he could only be trash at best. Then a girl carrying a large battle axe suddenly rushed out. "Don't be a fool and get in our way, kid." And as she spoke, she swung the axe in her hand down. Liu Feng instinctively raised his hand to block. The moment his hand touched the opponent's weapon, it created a huge explosion, pushing them both back. Liu Feng fell towards the black dragon, which carefully wrapped him in its wing. Then the dragon said, "Don't be rash. They are all level 7 masters and they're holding sacred weapons." At the same time, the girl who had just attacked Liu Feng was also extremely shocked. How could she not be shocked when a seemingly useless kid could block one of her attacks? Not stopping there, Liu Feng suddenly jumped up and rushed to attack again. His speed was so fast that the black dragon couldn't stop him even if it wanted to. But the girl with the axe clearly saw him running towards her from the front, yet somehow Liu Feng had appeared behind her like a ghost. If another person hadn't rushed out to interfere, this girl would have definitely been hit by Liu Feng's attack. He was knocked back once again, but luckily he wasn't injured. The man with the large hammer who had just rushed out seemed extremely furious. He hissed, "What an arrogant kid who doesn't know his place. Die." Then this man seemed to have used all his strength to unleash a falling fire technique. This attack must have been very powerful, evidenced by the fact that even the Black Dragon had to shout in alarm, "Be careful! This group has the support of sacred weapons. Their strength can rival the Saint level." And the Black Dragon didn't know exactly what had just happened to Liu Feng, but he was definitely not a match for these people yet. When he heard the dragon say that, Liu Feng was extremely surprised. The strength of this group, combined with sacred weapons, could already match a true Saint level master. But after 2 exchanges he could easily tell they weren't even as strong as Lei Ting. If this was already Saint level, then how strong must that bastard be? Just then another difficult problem arose. Liu Feng suddenly coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and his body immediately lost most of its strength. That was because his internal energy had been completely consumed, and the effect of the indestructible diamond body was completely gone. He quickly collapsed to the ground, to the Black Dragon's bewilderment. Moreover, Liu Feng's sudden collapse distracted the dragon, and at that very moment, the group launched a sneak attack, inflicting a huge wound on its chest. Taking that opportunity, the group began to deploy tactics to restrict the Black Dragon's movement. The situation was getting worse and worse, and the dragon realized it too, so it no longer stubbornly stayed to fight. It immediately spread its wings, grabbed Liu Feng with its claws, and soared into the sky. Of course, the people who came for the dragon egg didn't want the Black Dragon to escape, so they attacked relentlessly from all sides. The Black Dragon was pierced in the chest by a longsword, which was extremely painful, but by now it had successfully activated a spatial magic. After flying into the magic circle, both the dragon and Liu Feng disappeared without a trace. "Damn it, they escaped," the group said, through gritted teeth. "What's the panic? It took my sacred weapon, and I'm not even panicking," said the man who had just stabbed the Black Dragon with the longsword. "Don't worry, they can't escape. My tracking magic has already latched onto them." This time the purple-haired girl with the giant axe added. When Liu Feng woke up, his head was pounding. The surrounding space was pitch black, as if he was in a cave. Then Liu Feng heard a voice right next to him. "You woke up pretty fast." Liu Feng jumped and turned his head to see a very handsome white-haired man with a longsword still piercing through the middle of his chest. Before he could ask, the man introduced himself first. "I am Ate, your savior." Seeing the other party introduce himself as his savior, plus the somewhat familiar-looking sword, Liu Feng realized that Ate was the Black Dragon from before. He immediately became anxious, moved a little closer to him, and kept examining the wound on Ate's chest. "Thank you for saving my life, but with this sword stuck so deep, don't you feel any pain? Do you want me to help you pull it out?" The moment Liu Feng touched the sword, Ate yelled at him, causing him to freeze. "Stop! This sword cannot be pulled out, or I'll lose too much blood. This is common knowledge that everyone knows. Do you want me to die faster?" Liu Feng was so scared that he immediately took 2 steps back, becoming more and more panicked. He kept apologizing. Then he saw Ate burst out laughing. All right, I was just teasing you." With that, he grabbed the blade and decisively pulled it out. After pulling out the sword, he only coughed up a mouthful of blood. There was no massive bleeding like he had just described. Ate's condition didn't seem too dire, but Liu Feng was still very worried. Only when Ate said that this wound would only take a month to recover could he relax a little. He also said that this cave was his base and that group of people wouldn't be able to find it, so he could rest assured. But how could Liu Feng relax after going through such a life-or-death situation? "Who are those people and why did they want to attack you?" he asked. Ate said that those people were from the 4 great empires and a mercenary corps, and they came here to steal his dragon egg. At this point, Ate started rummaging through the pile of junk next to him to find the dragon egg to show Liu Feng. He was also speechless. Who in the world would hide their child in a pile of junk? Here it is. After some digging, Ate took out a large egg with a shiny shell. Liu Feng felt it was a bit unbelievable. This thing is a dragon egg, because at a glance it just looked like an oversized chicken egg. But Ate firmly insisted that this was his precious daughter. Seeing this, Liu Feng became even more curious. "How do you know it's a girl? Hasn't it hatched yet?" "What's so good about a stinky boy? It must be a girl. Besides, I laid this egg myself, so I should know." Liu Feng stared at him. From his appearance, wasn't Ate a man? How could he lay an egg? So he began to recount the story that started half a year ago. Back then, Ate had just woken up to find that he had turned into a black dragon. At that time, something was stuck in his throat, and then he spat out this egg. "This egg came out of my mouth, so it's my daughter. Doesn't it matter where the egg comes from? It's all the same, right?" Liu Feng was truly speechless. What Ate said sounded reasonable, but it felt strange everywhere. Then he pushed the egg into his arms and said, "Liu Feng, just hold it and you'll feel less scared. You transmigrated and still dare to run around in another world like this. You've got some guts. This place isn't Earth." Hearing the word Earth, Liu Feng's eyes immediately lit up. Then from Ate's mouth, he learned an even more sensational piece of information. That was that he was also a transmigrator from Earth from half a year ago after he woke up and turned into a black dragon. Just as the two were talking, a sharp pain suddenly shot through Ate's chest, so painful that he couldn't stand up straight. Seeing this, Liu Feng started to get anxious again. "How is your injury really? Can you hold on? I probably won't die. I'm a dragon after all. Don't web novels always say that dragons are the species with the most tenacious life force?" Liu Feng kept frowning, seeing that Ate was still in the mood to joke despite being so injured. However, aside from the pain in his chest, Ate did seem to be doing quite well. "Looking at you, you must have a lot of questions for me, right? For example, why am I a member of the dragon clan being attacked by humans?" Seeing Liu Feng remain silent, Ate took the initiative to speak. He nodded slightly because, according to the information Liu Feng had gathered since arriving, there were less than 100 dragons in this world, so they were very united. Why would people from the four great empires dare to join forces to steal a dragon egg? Weren't they afraid that the entire dragon clan would come for revenge? Ate smiled bitterly. "The dragon clan is indeed very united, but many years ago, because a black dragon stole the dragon god's egg, they were expelled from the dragon clan and are no longer protected by them. Therefore, humans who had always coveted the dragon clan's power, but didn't dare to act, directed all their ill intentions towards the Black Dragon clan. Because an empire only needs to possess one strong dragon to dominate the entire continent. However, adult dragons certainly won't obey their commands, so black dragon eggs have become the primary target. You see, the result is that I and nobody ran into trouble." Ate shrugged and said, "There are always people staring at my egg. It's really miserable. If I hadn't been unable to find a way back to Earth, why would I be here suffering like this? A place where you can't even play games. Why would someone like me want to stay?" Liu Feng seemed to have a rough understanding of Ate's situation. Then he had another question, which was whether there were other powers in this place besides magic and battle chi, because the power he possessed clearly didn't belong to either of these two types. "As far as I know, there aren't. Your power is very strange. I can't sense any waves of magic or battle chi from you." "So how do you use your power?" Ate replied and conveniently asked back. In fact, Liu Feng was still not clear on how to control his power. He replied that he only guessed the power came from a type of internal energy he had practiced since he was a child. After hearing this, Ate just nodded and continued. "It could be because you transmigrated here with your whole body, so your power is different from this world's. However, it seems you've been living in this world for some time now. How did you manage to run into such a remote forest all by yourself? You almost got me injured too." At this question reminded Liu Feng of the painful situation that day when Geke and Vini had lost their lives to save his. Liu Feng kept blaming himself, thinking that his own naivety had harmed them both. However, after hearing Liu Feng recount the entire story, Ate suddenly gave him a glimmer of hope. "Hearing you say that, maybe your Vini can still be saved. Because in this world there exists something called the Goddess of Life. According to legend, the Goddess of Life can resurrect the dead in a matter of minutes. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have to find her first." Liu Feng was both surprised and skeptical. He had never heard of this. But just as he asked Ate where he should look for her, the cave suddenly started to shake violently. Liu Feng lost his footing for a moment and fell backward. Ate's expression was very bad because based on these spiritual power waves, he could tell that the uninvited guests were the same people from before. But how could they have found this place? Just then a blue butterfly flew by. Without a word, Ate immediately crushed it. By the time he realized it was tracking magic, it was already too late. The enemy was right in front of them. Ate had no choice but to open a teleportation circle again, telling Liu Feng to quickly take his daughter and run. "What about you?" Liu Feng asked anxiously. "I have to stay and hold them off. Don't worry, as long as I want to run, no one can stop me." Honestly, Liu Feng was not at all at ease leaving Ate alone. But based on the situation just now, staying would not help him at all and might even hold him back. Then Ate tossed him a new weapon, which was the long sword that had been stuck in his chest earlier, and instructed, "Take this with you, it's a sacred weapon anyway. But remember, don't use it too much or it will backfire. My daughter is counting on you." Liu Feng gritted his teeth, having made up his mind. He couldn't deny that he was too weak right now and always needed someone to protect him. Before it was Geke and Vini, now it was Ate. But to resurrect Vini and protect this dragon egg, he had to become stronger at any cost. Only then would it be his turn to protect others in the future. As Liu Feng thought of this, the teleportation circle was also activated. However, right after that, the cave shook even more violently. Ate was horrified when he realized that the spiritual power waves from that group had reached the magic circle he had just created, causing the teleportation coordinates to be shifted. He hurriedly shouted, "Liu Feng, don't go in there anymore." However, both of their voices were drowned out by the noise of falling rocks. Liu Feng couldn't hear what Ate was saying clearly, and his face, which had just been cut by a flying rock, was starting to bleed. A drop of blood dripped onto the egg he was holding, immediately causing it to glow and heat up intensely. The other end of the teleportation circle opened, throwing Liu Feng and the dragon egg straight to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Liu Feng landed safely with the dragon egg, and luckily the sacred sword also came with him to this place. The Beastman Great Plains. A moment ago I think I heard Atte say the location was off. Right, the egg. As soon as he finished speaking, the egg suddenly jumped, startling Liu Feng, who had to use his body to catch it, and fell to the ground with a thud, getting the wind knocked out of him and coughing up blood. Cracks also began to appear on the eggshell. Liu Feng sat up carefully, held the little egg at a distance, and shouted in panic, "Oh no, did it break from the fall?" Just as he thought the egg was broken, it started to glow a light so dazzling that it turned Liu Feng into a comical-looking fool. He gritted his teeth, trying to hold the egg tightly while glancing down to see what was happening. "It's not going to explode, is it?" The thought had just left Liu Feng's mouth when the egg actually exploded. The earth-shattering explosion shook the entire area and sent him flying high into the sky. Liu Feng tried to crawl towards the egg, wanting to protect it, but also fearfully looking at the energy surrounding it. Did it hatch an atomic bomb? As time passed, the eggshell cracked open to reveal a tiny, shiny golden dragon sleeping soundly. The little dragon completed its hatching process, lifted its shiny head, and looked at him with sparkling eyes, making a soft sound. Liu Feng gently held the little golden dragon in his hands, his eyes filled with endless affection, wanting to pet it. A Chinese dragon? Is it a girl so cute? But suddenly the little golden dragon disappeared in a puff of white smoke, revealing a baby with a pair of golden horns on its head. The moment he appeared, he angrily shouted and kicked Liu Feng straight in the face, leaving a cute pink footprint on his cheek and scolding, "I am a boy." Liu Feng sat on the ground holding his left cheek with his hand and glanced at the naked little kid next to him. "Who taught you that?" And it was a shocking sight to behold. What caught his eye immediately made Liu Feng think of a mini cannon. Oh no! Fully equipped. He couldn't hold his tongue and uttered another sentence that made the little dragon angrily kick him again. The little dragon, not wanting Liu Feng to have another chance to peek at his soft white body, conjured a set of green clothes amid Liu Feng's indignant shouts. "The one who got your gender wrong was Atte, your father. I shed so much blood for you to hatch, and you still hit me. Where's your conscience? Did your father eat it?" After he was done scolding, he stopped, sighed, not noticing the little dragon had climbed onto his back. "Why did I bring this little ancestor with me?" While he was busy lamenting, a small hand reached up and grabbed a lock of his hair at his temple, making Liu Feng yelp in pain. The arrogant little dragon then proudly jumped onto his head, comfortably planting its bottom on his hair. Liu Feng clutched his left chest, his body trembling, and sighed once more. His fragile heart couldn't take the stimulation. Fine, I'll find some food for you." The little dragon crossed his arms and with a grumpy expression said something that scared the daylights out of Liu Feng. "I'm hungry." What do you want to eat?" "I want to eat dragon meat." "You probably don't drink milk, do you?" After the panic subsided, he bent down to pick up the sword Atte had given him. Liu Feng lowered his center of gravity, carrying the little dragon on his head, ready to set off to find something to eat. Energy enveloped both of their bodies, and with a whoosh, he ran off at high speed, leaving only a streak of light like lightning and a little dust flying into the air. Just as Liu Feng and the little dragon left, a foot landed gently on the ground. An elderly man with a golden crown on his head appeared. He observed the area and said slowly, "We're late. I can no longer sense it." Following him were two strange people, one with a long scar diagonally across his left eye, the other shorter and wearing a cloak that covered him from head to toe. It's been almost 100 years for a supreme-level being to finally appear in human territory. It's truly not easy. But this place seems to have the aura of the dragon clan. I wonder if this supreme being is a human or a dragon. The three of them looked towards the place where Liu Feng had just left, where a little of his magic power still lingered. This was a sign that the continent would welcome a new legend. An hour later, in another place, Liu Feng, full of pride, was smiling hideously as he sniffed the rising aroma. The cute little dragon's eyes were also sparkling like stars, drooling as he sniffed the fragrance. The two of them were sitting in a corner, the adult evenly turning a skewer of meat over a large fire, while the little one waited excitedly, so happy that his little tail couldn't stay still. After a while, Liu Feng took the hot golden brown wild beast meat off the fire. It should be ready. As soon as he brought it in front of the little dragon, the kid couldn't help but take a big bite, as if he had been starving for a long time. Liu Feng looked at him and kept smiling kindly, reminding him, "Little one, be careful not to burn yourself. If it's not enough, I'll catch more for you." But his kindness was met with a glare. The little dragon, while chewing the meat, tried to protect his food from Liu Feng's sight, so he had to explain to him again, What's wrong? I'm not hungry yet, you eat first. The little dragon looked down at the roasted meat in his hand, his cheeks still puffed with meat, but he said some words that deserved a spanking. The taste is mediocre, I am not satisfied. Liu Feng forced a smile to hide his anger and the urge to give the kid a beating. So hard to please. Then he looked up at the starry sky, one big and one small, leaning against each other and whispering, "By the way, Ate didn't tell me your name. How about I give you a name first?" Liu Feng looked down at the little dragon, asking for his opinion with a gentle gaze. "Seeing as you were born with a sparkling golden body, how about we just call you Xiaojin?" And the little dragon, with a blank expression, spat out a small piece of bone, not answering him. "What does that expression mean? Are you mocking my literary skills?" Xiaojin, full from eating, used Liu Feng's leg as a bed and obediently lay down under his gentle gaze. "I'm full, I want to sleep, don't disturb me." After he fell asleep, Liu Feng looked at the cute little face and thought to himself that Ate must have escaped successfully. "Since Ate entrusted you to me, I will definitely take good care of you." He frowned, pursing his lips as he looked at Xiaojin in his arms and silently made his decision. "I will definitely become stronger, protect Xiaojin well, and I must also resurrect Vinyi. Then the next time I absolutely will not let myself only be able to run away." Liu Feng looked up at the brightly shining starry sky and pondered. "There seem to be a lot of magical beasts around here. I'll use them for practice first. After finding a safe place to stay, I'll continue to gather clues about the goddess, and then think of a way to reunite with Ate." The scene changes to a magnificent hall with high walls intricately carved. A figure stood in the middle, intently examining something. The imperial hall of the Star Blue Empire's capital. He turned his head, looking at someone behind him with a panicked expression, and asked in an urgent tone, "Vice Emperor Shenxiang, what did you say?" Shenxiang's subordinate, dressed in a full cloak, knelt on one knee on the floor, respectfully reporting to your majesty, the team sent to steal the dragon egg has sent a message. His expression was not good either, as he looked worriedly at the vice-emperor and said loudly, "The mission failed. The black dragon escaped." Shenxiang angrily pointed at him, the emperor's rage growing stronger. "A bunch of useless trash! You brought a sacred weapon but couldn't even handle a dragon whose cultivation had been damaged." Wei Xiang trembled, his face dark, but he still tried to report the rest of the situation he had received. According to the report, the black dragon also had a human accomplice. Hearing this, Shenxiang's brows furrowed even tighter, his sharp eyes looking at his subject. How could he be with a dragon? Who is it? Wei Xiang recalled the person's appearance, black hair, tall and thin, accompanying Ate as a pair fighting together. He lowered his head, his face covered in sweat, his voice trembling with each breath. "It's a young man with black hair and black pupils. This subordinate will send people to hunt him down." Shenxiang raised his chin, his fierce and arrogant face fuming as he glanced down at Wei Xiang. "No need. I have other arrangements for this matter." The scene returns to the vast green plains under a clear blue sky with flocks of birds flying peacefully. 10 days later. But in a corner of that lush prairie, a series of arrow-shaped wooden signs with words that didn't fit the scenery were stuck all over the ground. "Food, 50 mem ahead. There's meat." The wind whistled past the wooden signs. On the ground, one big and one small were lying sprawled out with some dirt and fresh flower sprigs on their heads, right among the sign arrows, "Delicious meat, come eat me." Lying here, eating the wind. A strong wind blew by, blowing the delicate petals off the flowers on both of their heads. The two small flowers quickly withered, their heads drooping without any life left to show off their beauty and fragrance. One person and one little dragon lay on the ground, trying their best to stay still and camouflage themselves to hunt prey. But Xiaojin was about to give up, his face pale weakly, reaching out to Liu Feng for help. "Liu Feng, I am very hungry." He moved closer to Xiaojin, his face just as withered as the little dragon's. But he still encouraged him. "Don't be hasty. Hold on a little longer." As soon as Liu Feng finished speaking, a beast slowly stepped onto the green grass and approached. A red wolf with blood-red eyes had accidentally wandered into this place. It stared intently at Liu Feng's head, which had a flower stuck in it. Seeing the prey take the bait, his eyes lit up, and he thought with a wicked smile, "Finally took the bait." Xiaojin also tried to lie very still, but drool was already starting to drip out. "My dinner!" Just as the red wolf was within their reach, there was a sudden shout. It was startled and whipped its head around to look at where the sound came from. "Captain, there are people over there." Following the voice, a burly man holding binoculars was observing in a certain direction. Liu Feng and Xiaojin remained flat on the ground, glancing over at the man observing him silently. The red wolf also saw them, and it turned its head to growl at the group of strangers. The man's binoculars focused in the direction of Liu Feng and Xiaojin. Through the binoculars, he saw him trying to wave at him, "Go, go, go, go!" And right near the two of them was the tall red wolf, its fangs sticking out as shiny as blades. He put down the binoculars, sweat beading on his forehead. His face quite serious as he mumbled, "That young man is asking us for help. They're being targeted by a 7th-rank red wolf. They don't dare make a move." He looked decisively in that direction, quickly made a decision and said to his 3 teammates, "Let's go save him." The bald teammate next to him seemed more cautious. He turned to remind his captain, "Wait, Captain, I'm afraid there's something strange about this." Hearing his teammate say that, he glanced at him and asked back, "Why do you say that, Beta?" The man named Beta lowered his head and analyzed his thoughts for him. "Captain, this place is usually teeming with magical beasts, but this time we've been walking for a long time and haven't spotted a single one. Isn't this very unusual?" He also keenly observed the situation around where Liu Feng was lying. A series of arrows were pointing directly at them, and the arrangement around that young man looked very strange. "I'm afraid there's a problem here." But his captain closed his eyes, waved his hand at him and said resolutely, "Beta, I know you're cautious, but a life is at stake right now. The Zaya mercenary group would never leave someone to die." Then he quickly pointed directly at the red wolf opposite them, leading everyone to start the rescue mission for the person in distress. "Arfa, provide cover, Sigma with me." The 4 of them quickly formed a formation. Arfa took the lead, charging forward with an axe. Right behind him, the captain began to draw his sword under the cover of Sigma and Beta. The captain followed, drew his sword, gritted his teeth, and charged to the front line with a stern face. Sigma in the back knocked an arrow on his bow, infused it with energy, and then released it, letting the arrow fly. Arfa also shouted loudly, charging forward aggressively with his iron axe shoulder to shoulder with the captain. Behind them, they had additional support from Beta. He stood still in one spot, channeling a spell to shoot his energy directly at the red wolf. The arrow and the fireball from the 2 of them reached the red wolf first. It was also ready to engage the group of 4. It lowered its center of gravity to gather momentum, then leaped high into the air, causing blades of grass to be cut and fly in the wind. Its large body loomed in the air as it fiercely charged at the Saya mercenary group. Captain Kang saw the red wolf's action and hastily shouted, "The red wolf is charging!" The majestic group didn't last long before they turned tail and fled for their lives. The fastest runner was none other than Kang's. "Run quickly!" Right after that, he turned his head and shouted loudly to Liu Feng's group, "We'll lure the red wolf away, you little brothers should run now." Xiao Jin propped himself up his hungry stomach, rumbling loudly, watching those people lure the red wolf away until they were just a shadow. His eyes filled with tears, his small adorable face watching his meal run away. Xiao Jin burst into tears, crying a river, and throwing a tantrum, wailing loudly, "Dinner! They took my dinner away!" Liu Feng propped himself up with his sword on the ground, looking in the direction the group had lured the red wolf. "They're in trouble because they tried to save us. We can't just sit here and do nothing." As soon as the words left his mouth, he leaped away. Next to Xiao Jin, there was only an empty spot with no sign of Liu Feng. Seeing this, Xiao Jin frantically chased after him. "Hey, don't abandon me!" Over here, the red wolf was in hot pursuit of Kang's group, forcing the whole group to run for their lives. Kang's and Arfa ran with all their might, one running with an axe on his shoulder. The other, with longer legs, also ran at full speed, carrying his sword. But looking back, he still couldn't understand how can it be so close. "We can't shake it off." Arfa, carrying his axe, was crying without a sound. His slightly aged face crumpled up. "You guys clearly can't beat a 7th-rank red wolf. Why did you have to play the hero?" "I haven't even gotten to hold a pretty lady's hand, but it's like when it rains it pours." While running for dear life, a rock got in the way. Kangs was running too fast, tripped on a rock, and fell flat on his face, flying forward a good distance, which panicked the whole group. The red wolf saw this but didn't stop. It had been infuriated by this group of people. It leaped up, intending to pounce on Kangs, who had fallen on the ground, but just as it was about to finish him, its body was hit with a fatal blow. Fresh red blood sprayed from its body in all directions. Kangs right underneath got quite a bit on him, his jaw dropping in surprise. The blade was still glowing with the blue color of magical energy, with small lingering bolts of lightning wrapped around it. The person's feet touched the ground, feeling very light and graceful. Liu Feng carried his sword on his shoulder, standing majestically on the corpse of the large red wolf. He leaned down towards Kang, smiling and talking to him while he was too shocked to speak. "Big brother, thank you for saving my life earlier." While Liu Feng was thanking him, Xiao Jin jumped onto his head from nowhere and shouted excitedly, "Dinner! Meat!" The 4 members of the Sire mercenary group stared blankly at their strange behavior. What is this situation? Night fell. A bonfire was lit, illuminating a space in the middle of the vast plain. The group of 6 sat around the fire, roasting the red wolf's meat and enjoying the hot, fragrant barbecue together. Kangs, while chewing on the roasted meat, smiled at Liu Feng and praised him. Little brother, you're really talented to think of using yourself as bait to hunt beasts. Being praised, he shyly scratched his head and honestly confessed to Kangs, I've already brought the nearby magical beasts for Xiaojin to eat. The remaining magical beasts run away as soon as they see me, so I could only play dead and use myself as bait to lure them in. Hearing this, he noticed the little kid next to him turned his head to look and saw Xiaojin struggling to bite a piece of meat bigger than his own body. So that's how it is, no wonder we didn't see any magical beasts along the way. Kangs looked at Liu Feng, propped one knee up, rested his arm on it and said, Since that's the case, little brother, why don't you consider leaving this place? Liu Feng lowered his head, hiding his eyes under the shadow of his bangs, and said with a smile, I don't know where to go. When he heard that, he was taken aback, looking at him with a very surprised expression and asking back, Nowhere to go? Liu Feng didn't hide it either. He slowly spoke his true feelings. We're not familiar with life here, we basically don't know where to go. Hearing him say that, Kangs rushed over and clapped a hand on Liu Feng's shoulder, the sudden action startling Liu Feng. Not familiar with life here, brother Liu, don't worry. I Kangs have traveled far and wide, I'm especially familiar with the entire continent. Wherever you want to go, just ask me. Seeing Kang's affirmation, his face lit up with joy, his eyes sparkling with hope as he looked at him, really, big brother Kangs. Then do you know where the goddess of life is? Liu Feng's question actually made him and the others in the group pay attention. But Kangs was an honest person and scratched his head, admitting embarrassedly to him, the goddess of life. You've hit a blind spot in my knowledge. At this moment, Beta, who had been listening silently to the whole story, suddenly spoke up. Many years ago, after the War of the Gods ended, the gods of the world also ceased their activities. Since then, no one has ever seen the goddess of life again. Hearing him say that, Liu Feng was thunderstruck, his eyes widening in a daze. His face fell, and he sadly lowered his head, muttering to himself, Then what should I do? His hand gripping his knee trembled slightly. His tall, thin body gradually slumped. Dejected and gloomy, Liu Feng knelt beside his sword. Could it be that Weir can't be resurrected? Seeing his mood plummet, Kangs came over to encourage him. He placed a hand on his shoulder and said, Brother, just because no one has seen the goddess of life doesn't mean she doesn't exist. He quickly seized the opportunity, a slightly calculating smile noticed by Xiaojin. Why don't you consider joining our mercenary group? Kangs and his 3 teammates all happily awaited his introduction. After becoming a mercenary, you can go to the mercenary guild. There you can buy all kinds of intelligence, perhaps you'll find clues about the goddess of life. He painted a picture of golden coins falling from the sky, the dazzling, sparkling light of gold captivating everyone. You can also get mission rewards, no need to worry about food, you'll eat like a king. Liu Feng asked him back with a surprised look, clues about the goddess of life. As for Xiaojin, he was dreaming of filling his ever-hungry stomach, eat like a king. The two looked at each other, smiled brightly, and replied to Kangs in unison, I agree. Liu Feng stood up on behalf of the two of them and spoke to him. All right then, big brother Kangs will join. Kangs was overjoyed to receive his agreement. He grabbed his shoulders and welcomed him. That's great. With an expert like you joining our mercenary group, we'll definitely have a chance to become the top-tier mercenary group. Sigma and Arfa grinned from ear to ear, welcoming the 2 new members to their group. Welcome. Let's work together to become the top-tier mercenary group. Only Beta said nothing, his eyes secretly glancing towards the 2 of them. Meanwhile, Liu Feng cheerfully rubbed his head, smiling sheepishly at them, while Xiaojin danced with joy beside him. While the 2 were excited, Kangs took out a stack of paper and slapped it down hard. The first page caught his attention. Liu Feng and Xiaojin followed Kang's voice and looked at the pile of papers on the ground. Seeing how tall it was, their jaws nearly dropped. Come on, sign this contract. Once you've signed, you'll officially be a member of our Sire mercenary group. He scratched his head, picked up the first page of the contract to examine it and said to him, Where did you guys hide this contract before? It's so thick. What's written on it? He slapped the stack of contracts that reached his waist, looked at the 2 who were still confused and explained, If you don't understand it, I'll explain it to you slowly. It's not too late to sign after you understand. Kangs began his explanation, listing a series of details. This includes various types of insurance bonuses, benefits, perks, travel, salary, vacation days, year-end profit sharing, housing subsidies, work support, meal support, disability insurance, death benefits. Liu Feng's head was spinning after listening to him read for a while. He couldn't take it anymore and quickly raised his hand to stop him. Stop, stop, stop! Don't say any more. I'll just sign it. He took a small step forward, his steps a bit hesitant, but he began to move forward with an exclamation. This is massive. Cut to a small town, the streets don't seem very bustling yet. Music could be heard from a tavern located right at the beginning of the street. Inside, Kangs led Liu Feng, who was sitting on a stool at the bar. "Brother Liu, this is the mercenary tavern of Neverfall Stronghold. This place isn't big, but it has quite a variety of alcohol, and nearby mercenaries often like to come here for a drink." Just as Kangs described, this small tavern was very crowded and lively. The entire Zaire mercenary group was celebrating, enjoying the delicious beer and snacks here. Liu Feng turned his head to see everyone having fun, and the little dragon Xiaojin's eyes also lit up. "It's really lively. There are so many pretty ladies here, I love it." At this moment, the tavern owner placed 2 cold, foaming mugs of beer in front of the two, smiling and saying, "Gentlemen, here is your dragon's blood beer." She also thoughtfully made a glass of fruit juice for Xiaojin, pushed it in front of him and said gracefully, "Little brother, here is your fruit juice." But the little dragon was curious, leaning over towards Liu Feng, peering into the beer mug in his hand, then sulkily crossed his arms and demanded, "Why is theirs all beer?" Then he turned to look at the owner, his eyes sparkling like stars in the sky, trying to be as cute as possible to win her over. "Pretty lady, give me a glass of alcohol. It has to be the strongest kind you have here." Seeing his request, the owner crossed her arms, leaned on the table, got closer to Xiaojin and asked, "Little brother, how old are you?" Minors who drink alcohol might not grow tall. Hearing the mention of age, Xiaojin looked quite confident. He arrogantly crossed his arms and told the owner, "If you count the time I was in the egg, I'm already several hundred years old." The owner was startled when she heard that, brought her face close to Xiaojin's and stared wide-eyed at the tiny person in front of her. The time in the egg was several hundred years old. Then she burst out laughing as if she had heard a hilarious joke, forcing Liu Feng to run over and cover Xiaojin's mouth. "Don't tell me you're trying to say you're from the Dragon Clan." "That's right. My little brother likes to brag, don't listen to him." She leaned down and gently touched the tip of Xiaojin's nose with her fingertip. So cute. With that, she stood up, blew a kiss and winked at Xiaojin, said a quick goodbye and was about to leave. "Little one, big sister has to get back to work now. I'll play with you later." Seeing her leave, he panicked, frantically jumping on the table, waving his hands. "Wait, don't go. Are kids these days all so precocious?" Xiaojin failed to get a drink and was even considered a bragging child. He angrily turned and grabbed Liu Feng's collar, pulling it. "Why didn't you let me admit my identity? If that pretty lady knew I was from the Dragon Clan, she would definitely like me even more." Liu Feng turned around carefully, looking left and right to check the surroundings, then whispered to Xiaojin, who was sulking on the table with his arms crossed and eyes shut tight. "There are a lot of complicated people here. If you admit you're from the Dragon Clan, we'll definitely be hunted down and killed." He pointed at Xiaojin, his threatening tone making him tremble with fear. "Do you want to die?" "Die?" The little dragon stopped making a scene, immediately becoming obedient upon hearing about life and death, touching his small head and sighing. "All right, I won't say it anymore." Just as they finished their private conversation, Kangs approached. He enthusiastically invited the two of them. "Aren't you guys hungry just sitting here all this time? Order whatever you want to eat my treat." Xiaojin's eyes lit up again at the mention of food, his small tail wagging uncontrollably. "Really, go ahead and order, no need to be polite with your big bro." Receiving the confirmation, he didn't hold back anymore, grinning widely and shouting, "Beautiful lady, bring me the menu. I want to order." The owner quickly brought out a huge plate of meat. Xiaojin immediately forgot everything else and dove into his dinner. Meanwhile, Liu Feng turned to ask Kangs, "Big brother Kangs, will there really be an information broker here who knows about the goddess of life?" He stopped drinking his beer and confidently assured him, in Neverfall Stronghold, "This is the place with the most information brokers. Whatever news you want to hear coming to the mercenary tavern is the right choice." The two followed his gesture and looked towards the crowd that was getting drunk in the back. "So how many information brokers are in there? Let's go and ask around." Time passed quickly. Outside, the sky had brightened, and birds were chirping to welcome the new day. Kangs patted the shoulder of the person who was lying face down on the table, looking a bit dejected. "Brother Liu, it seems the whereabouts of the goddess of life are really hard to investigate. I won't give up." Only now did he pay attention to his words and ask seriously, "Brother Liu, why are you in such a hurry to investigate the goddess's whereabouts? Could it be for eternal life?" Liu Feng was silent for a moment, recalling the images of Grandpa Hack and Weir. "I lost someone very important. I hope the goddess of life can help me resurrect them." Hearing him speak such heartfelt words made Kangs very pleased. He slapped him hard on the shoulder, raised his beer mug and said, "Brother Liu is truly a loyal and righteous person. For me, Kangs, to have a friend like you is truly worthwhile." Liu Feng turned his head to look at him, smiling at his sincere face and words. "Thank you, Kangs." But before Liu Feng could finish his thanks, they were both distracted by a commotion from behind. How can a child be like that? Wait, I treated you to a meal, not told you to eat everything. You didn't even leave a little bit for me. Is this kid okay? Hearing those people talk, Liu Feng was a bit startled and immediately turned to his table to look for the child. Could they be talking about Xiaojin? Sure enough, Xiaojin, who was eating meat at his table just a moment ago, was nowhere to be seen. Wasn't he just here a moment ago? Let's go have a look. He followed Kangs and the others over to where the people were shouting. Everyone seemed quite surprised. It turned out Xiaojin wasn't full yet, so he went over to other people's tables to freeload. At this moment he was sitting on the table struggling to fight with a large piece of meat under the admiring and excited gazes of the people around. Seeing Xiaojin's appetite, Kangs turned pale, completely shocked. As for Liu Feng, he was helpless, covering his face with his hand and forcing an excuse. Oh my god, turns out Xiaojin can eat this much. Xiaojin's body is growing, so he eats a little more. The entire mercenary group was in complete shock as the owner continued to bring out meat for Xiaojin. Kangs looked at the meat and asked Liu Feng, "Are you sure it's just a little more?" Just then the tavern door was pushed open from the outside, causing the small bell hanging on a nail to make a sound. Seeing the group of people who had just entered, Kangs put his arm around Liu Feng's neck and spun around. Luckily, he also managed to grab the little kid Xiaojin by the collar. "Let's go, we'll slip out first." Huh, what's going on? He secretly turned his head to look at the other side of the tavern. The group that just entered was fawning over a dark-skinned man. Even the beautiful owner respectfully presented the menu to him with both hands. Kangs looked worriedly at the group and whispered an explanation to Liu Feng. "Those guys at the door are the Huangxiang mercenary group. We've had a few conflicts with them before. They're always looking for trouble. They have a lot of people today. We shouldn't run into them." He turned his head back, his confident and cheerful expression gone, and whispered with his head slightly bowed, "It should be fine." But as soon as Kangs finished speaking, a group approached, cheerfully greeting him. "Kangs, long time no see, brothers. Come, let me introduce my new friend." The dark-skinned man from the Huangxiang group held a beauty in his arms, a lustful look on his face, and asked solicitously, "Sweetheart, the grilled beef here is extremely delicious. Want to try some?" "Okay, honey." Upon receiving his lover's answer, he raised his hand and snapped his fingers loudly instead of speaking. The owner, Mei Ling, quickly appeared. She held the menu and bowed to serve. "Sir, what can I get for you?" 3 orders of grilled beef. After hearing his order, Mei Ling spoke more softly, bowing her head even lower, and replied, "I'm very sorry, the grilled beef is sold out." Hearing that the grilled beef was sold out, he flew into a rage, his narrow eyes suddenly glaring at Mei Ling. But then he turned his head, his expression doing a 360-degree turn, and said gently to the girl in his arms, "Sweetheart, how about we have the steamed eagle dragon's leg?" Mei Ling tried to maintain a professional smile, but sweat had started to bead on her beautiful face. "I'm so sorry, the eagle dragon's leg is also sold out." Wu Kai glanced at her, his attitude clearly showing his growing annoyance with every word she said. He still tried to restrain himself, asking Mei Ling as politely as possible, "So, what do you have now?" But she could only look at Wu Kai cautiously and reply, "All the meat is gone, only vegetables are left." He held his woman close to Mei Ling, and neither of their faces looked friendly at all. "All sold out? How is that possible?" The owner, afraid of him, stood to one side and timidly pointed towards the bar where Kang's group was standing. "The customers over there ordered all the meat." Wu Kai looked over. He saw that it was Kang's and his familiar brothers laughing and joking happily. He sneered, gave an arrogant laugh, then stood up, his eyes fixed on Kang's spot, and said, "Look who it is." Over here, Kang still didn't know he had been recognized. He was still enthusiastically introducing Liu Feng to his friends. "That 7th-rank Red Wolf. This friend of mine, Liu, took care of it with a single sword strike." "Kangs, you must be bragging." "That's right. Killing a 7th-rank Red Wolf with 1 strike is your brother about to reach the Saint rank." Liu Feng sat there, his face slightly red with embarrassment. He scratched his chin, wanting to interject with, "Actually, I—" But once again he didn't get a chance to finish his sentence before Wu Kai with his woman in his arms came up behind them. "Isn't this Kang's? Why didn't you die on the savage Great Plains? Damn it, didn't this pig just sit down and start eating? Why is he over here now?" He started clicking his tongue, gesturing wildly in a way that showed contempt for Kang's, and said some provocative words. "Our Huangxiang mercenary group had already prepared a funeral for you, and you just had to ruin a perfect funeral." Hearing him mock them with such malicious words infuriated Kangs. He slammed his hand on the table with a bang and turned around to stand up and confront him. Kangs shouted loudly, looking him straight in the face, "Wu Kai, don't go too far." But this guy was thick-skinned and fat with rather small ears, so he didn't pay any mind to his words. He glanced at him with contempt. Too far? What's more outrageous than bragging? He looked at the small and thin Liu Feng next to him and rudely pointed directly at his face, saying, "Just now you said this guy could take down a 7th-rank Red Wolf with one blow. This person doesn't have a single trace of fighting spirit or magic on him. On what basis do you say he killed the Red Wolf? Based on that big mouth of yours, after saying that he and his whole group stood there throwing their heads back and laughing loudly, provoking Kangs. What I said is the truth. Brother Liu took care of the Red Wolf with one sword strike." Wu Kai didn't believe it. He puffed out his chest and shouted over him, "All right then, I happen to be at the 7th rank of power. Tell your brother to take me down with one blow. If he can't do it, it proves you're lying." He was completely arrogant, rudely pointing at his face and continuing the humiliation. "Then you'll have to tell everyone here that Kangs is a braggart." He turned to answer before Kangs could speak. "I accept his bet. Since we're making a bet, let's make it a big one." He raised his head to look straight at the tall, boorish man in front of him and asked with a serious expression, "If you lose, you crawl out of here, how about it?" Hearing his challenge, Wu Kai immediately got into a stance, releasing his fighting spirit to intimidate Liu Feng. "Fine then, come on. Let's see who the pathetic one is that gets taken down in one move." Kang stood in front of Liu Feng. He angrily pointed at Wu Kai and exposed him. "Wait a minute, you're lying. You're clearly at the 8th rank." Wu Kai was so angry that veins popped on his head, glaring down at the two of them from his height. "So what if I am? It's too late to regret it now." Kangs knew he couldn't reason with this guy, so he turned to Liu Feng, who was looking around for something. "Brother Liu, listen to me, you should go first." He spoke while reaching for a straw from a half-finished glass of orange juice on Mei Ling's tray. "It's okay, big brother Kangs. Don't you trust my abilities, miss? I'll just borrow this straw for a bit." The tavern suddenly became a fighting arena. Kang stood next to Liu Feng, still worried sick, looking at the amount of magic Wu Kai was releasing, but Liu Feng was strangely calm. He held up the cute yellow straw and said with a mocking smile, "To deal with you, I don't need a sword, a straw is enough." His words made Wu Kai's blood boil. He gritted his teeth being mocked by Liu Feng, but Wu Kai was confident in his 8th rank level. He chuckled and sneered at Liu Feng. "This kid has successfully pissed me off. I'll make you regret meeting me right now." Liu Feng waited for him to finish his sentence. He also released his fighting spirit, its gentle blue color overpowering Wu Kai's blazing red. Then without a sound he pointed the tiny little straw straight at his face. Liu Feng's expression was resolute, the straw in his hand also aimed straight at Wu Kai. "In my opinion, the one who should regret this is you." Regardless of the fight over there, Xiaojin was still munching away on his delicious roasted meat. The people in the tavern were also extremely surprised, and all stopped focusing their attention over here. "Look, someone actually dares to challenge Wu Kai." "Wu Kai has already broken through to the 8th rank. If he's not careful, he'll die." Xiaojin, with a mouthful of meat, turned his head and said in a childish voice, "What's so good about fighting? It's not as good as eating." Over here, Liu Feng was still pointing straight at Wu Kai while he took a step back and stomped his foot hard as a show of force. The two looked at their opponents, one tall with spiky defensive armor, the other fair-skinned and small with only a fruit juice straw as a weapon. Yagun stood behind, stroking his chin and asking Kangs quietly while he was quite tense, "Kangs, is your friend going to be okay? Wu Kai seems really angry. Looking at how small your friend is, can he even fight Wu Kai?" He was also very worried about this new brother, but he also respected him, which is why he stood aside. Although he felt Brother Liu was quite capable, Wu Kai's power was beyond imagination. He was just afraid that Brother Liu... Kangs looked at Liu Feng's back as he twirled the straw in his hand and clenched his fist. "Brother Liu is my friend, and he only got into a conflict with Wu Kai because of me. If I don't trust him, what kind of person am I?" He believed in this brother. After figuring out what he needed to do, Kangs became more confident, smiled and said to the people beside him, "I saw with my own eyes Brother Liu kill the Red Wolf with a single sword strike. So what if Wu Kai is stronger than the Red Wolf? He's definitely no match for Brother Liu." He turned to look at Cheng Wei, and Arfa put his hands on his hips and said to them with a serious expression, "If you don't believe me, let's make a bet." "A bet it is. If you want to hand over your money, we have to accept it. But I'm just afraid this time you'll lose both your money and your man." Over here, Wu Kai was cracking his knuckles loudly to intimidate Liu Feng. "Kid, are you ready to die?" "I'm ready." He channeled his energy into the straw, making it perfectly straight. His face also bore a smile, ready to fight as he said to Wu Kai, "But not to die." As soon as he finished, Wu Kai stomped through the wooden floor and charged like a wolf, like a tiger, with a loud shout. It seems in this world there's no saying the one who strikes first is bound to lose. Liu Feng calmly watched him charge. He swung his arm to the side, calculating to himself, "Just the right time to try out the move I comprehended in Huaxia a few days ago." He closed his eyes, calmed his weapon and mind, and recited the incantation in his head. One mind, two thoughts, one body, two selves, lure and subdue mirror image clone. Then with a whoosh, one person became two splitting apart. Just as Wu Kai's punch arrived, two Liu Feng's appeared confusing him. He looked back and forth wondering, what is this situation? What the hell is going on? Two people. Just as he was distracted, Liu Feng held the straw, pointed its sharp end forward and decisively stabbed straight ahead. Wu Kai froze on the spot. He glanced down amidst his own blood-curdling scream. The two Liu Fengs, one on the left and one on the right, stabbed an unspeakable place on Wu Kai's muscular body, even breaking his belt. Wu Kai was hit. Blood gushed from his nose, his face contorted in pain, and his eyes rolled back into his head. That large body was sent flying by a terrifying force, crashing into the tavern wall and shattering the wooden wall, but even that couldn't stop Wu Kai from flying out of the tavern. Liu Feng merged back into one person, standing right where the tavern door was broken, looking at the guy who was knocked out. Looks like you don't need to crawl out on your own anymore. He lifted the tattered straw, looked at it, and felt a bit speechless. That was a close call. Using a straw was indeed a bit of a stretch. Wu Kai's entire group ran outside to check on his condition. Kangs also followed them outside amidst the crowd's speculation. Wu Kai was sent flying with a single blow. This Wu Kai isn't an imposter, is he? After confirming his condition, he returned to Liu Feng's side, patted him on the shoulder, and praised him cheerfully. Brother Liu, that was amazing. He turned his head, his face proud, and with the smile of an exploiter, he looked at his two brothers and held out his hand. Quick pay up, pay up. You must have conspired with Wu Kai to cheat us out of our money. Wu Kai's underlings struggled to pull their boss up, looking terrified, but still trying to put on a brave face and threaten, You just wait. Our captain will come find you to settle the score. Then the whole gang quickly packed up and fled in a panic when they saw Liu Feng step forward. It seems that no matter where you are, the villain's lines are all the same. Kangs held up two heavy money bags he had just won and showed them off to him. Brother Liu, you're so strong. Thanks to you, I made a lot of money. I'll give you half when we get back. Big brother Kangs, no need to be so polite. You should keep this money as funds for the mercenary group. But then he carefully leaned into Liu Feng's ear and whispered an important matter to him. Brother Liu, Wu Kai was humiliated this time. The captain of the Huangxiang mercenary group will definitely not let this go. We should probably leave this place. Okay, I'll go get Xiaojin. We'll leave right now. Then he turned to Mei Ling's counter and placed a bag of money on the table, to her slight surprise. Kang stood generously next to the two large money bags and said to her with a smile, Beauty the bill. I'll pay for the damages. Mei Ling picked up the money bag to check it. She was a bit confused and hesitantly asked, Mr. Kang's the change. It's just a little extra, no need for change. However, his majestic air lasted only a few seconds before Mei Ling's words made him panic. She was also a bit embarrassed, but needed to be clear. Mr. Kangs, I wanted to ask, how will you be paying the rest, your food bill, plus the repair costs for the damages? This isn't enough. His face darkened. He held out his hand to her, his mouth twisting to one side as he said, What? Not enough. Let me see the bill. The bill in his hand was so long it swept the floor, leaving Kangs speechless. Liu Feng, who was next to him, could only hide his face, while the little troublemaker let out a satisfied burp and rolled over to sleep. Brother Xiaojin, just how much did you eat? I'm only 90% full. How embarrassing. Inside, the noisy tavern continued to welcome new waves of customers despite the brawl and scuffle that had just occurred. Kang Si and Liu Feng walked shirtless on the street. He shyly turned to apologize to him. Big brother Kang Si, I'm so sorry. Not only did you have to pay back all your winnings, but you also had to pawn all your clothes. But Kang Si was a straightforward and chivalrous person. He didn't mind at all and even laughed, pointing at himself. It's nothing. We're all brothers. What's a small matter like this? But thinking about the debt to the tavern, his face couldn't stay happy, and he grimaced and muttered, It's just... We still owe the tavern quite a bit of money. We have to think of a way. The two continued walking through the quiet forest as strong winds whistled through the tall trees. Just then a person in the purple cloak that concealed their face appeared behind Kang Si and Liu Feng. That person spoke up, stopping them in their tracks. I have a task I'd like to commission. I wonder if you're interested in taking it. The scene changes to a large, magnificent villa, but the front of it looks like a mud pit with 3 figures below. The backyard of the Fantasy Mercenary Corps. Captain Heitu, we know we were wrong. Please spare us. They struggled in the mud pit trying to get out, but only sank deeper and deeper. Next time, even if we have to die, we will definitely complete the mission. Then gradually that person's entire body sank, leaving only a single hand raised above the bubbling mud. No. At that moment several people ran in at once, their footsteps thudding on the shiny wooden floor. "Captain Hei-tu." It turned out to be Wukai's group of henchmen returning to report the situation. "Vice Captain Wukai is injured." The mud below began to bubble again, and a voice echoed from beneath the swamp. "Wukai is injured. Who did it?" The three underlings on the edge quickly reported the situation over the increasingly loud bubbling sound. "We don't know him. He seems to be Kang Xi's new assistant. Everyone at the tavern saw that guy defeat Vice Captain Wukai with just one move." A head slowly emerged from the black mud, revealing a shiny, smooth forehead. "One move!" The man revealed his bare upper body from the mud pit, looking at them with his small, dark-circled eyes. Although Wukai just broke through to the 8th rank and his level isn't stable yet, he was defeated in one move. That piece of trash. Where did Kang Xi find such an expert? Where are they now? I want to see who dares to confront my fantasy mercenary corps. He stepped naked out of the mud pit, placing a foot still covered in black mud onto the steps. According to the report, they went to the mercenary guild. Hei-tu looked over at Wu Xuan, who had just reported. The man immediately looked away in fear, avoiding his captain's gaze. "The mercenary guild? What are they doing there?" I don't know." The scene changes to a rather large building with quite a few people coming and going in front of it. Mercenary guild. In the hallway of the mercenary guild, Liu Feng and Xiao Jin followed behind Kang Xi. He asked him curiously, "Big brother Kang Xi, how did we get our clothes back?" "Of course I sacrificed my good looks to get them back from the tavern owner." "You're lying, I don't believe you." "But is it true that as long as I get a 7th rank mercenary qualification, I can accept the C rank commission that person mentioned?" "Yeah, a mercenary corps can't accept commissions that exceed its rank. Our Enterprise Mercenary Corps was originally only D rank." He happily shared what he knew with him, not hiding anything. To accept a C rank commission, the course must have at least one 7th rank expert. If you test a 7th rank or higher, our course will also be promoted to C rank. In Kang Xi's mind were sparkling gold coins, making his smile even brighter. "Once we complete this C rank mission, we'll have the money to compensate the tavern owner." But contrary to Kang Xi's optimism, Liu Feng was more concerned about the masked person who gave them the commission letter. "I always feel like something's not right. How could a mission just coincidentally fall into our laps like this? Then the mission invitation will be delivered to our residence. What is the background of that mysterious person?" Kang Xi patted his shoulder, pulling him out of the messy thoughts in his head. "What are you thinking about? Look ahead." Right in front of them appeared a large stone slab carved with a sun with chains wrapped around it. Kang Xi looked at the stone slab and introduced it to Liu Feng. "We're here. You can test your strength using the testing stone." The two people behind them carefully watched the man in front punch the testing stone hard. 5th rank. Next, Liu Feng. He stepped forward at the call, but before going, he turned to say something to Kang Xi and Xiao Jin and quickly received enthusiastic encouragement from both. "I'm going to test for a moment, I'll be right back." "Go, go, go." Liu Feng approached the examiner to register. He smiled and scratched his head, saying, "Hello, this is my first time applying for mercenary status and I'd like to test my strength. Stand in the middle and punch with all your might." He approached the testing stone as instructed and stood in the center. Then Liu Feng punched with all his might. Everyone watched the whole process in silence, but when the punch landed, Liu Feng clutched his right shoulder, rotating his arm to relax, while the examiner behind him broke into a sweat, looking anxiously at the motionless testing stone. "Why is there no reaction?" Kang Jing stepped forward, leaning down to assess Liu Feng, which startled him a bit. "Wait a minute. You don't have any battle aura, do you know magic?" "I don't." Upon receiving Liu Feng's nonchalant reply, he got so angry he snapped the quill in his hand. The crowd behind them gloated as if they'd heard a joke. "What's there to test without battle aura or magic? Are you messing with me? No battle aura and no magic, isn't that a magic and martial arts reject? Shit, a magic and martial arts reject wants to be a mercenary, what an idiot." At this moment, a burly bearded man with a ferocious scar on his face snorted coldly. The man approached, reaching his hand toward Liu Feng as if to do something. He grabbed Liu Feng by the collar, yanking him from in front of Kang Jing to face him, and shouted, "Kid, if you're useless, just stay at home quietly. Don't come out. You're an eyesore to us." Liu Feng wasn't angry about having his collar grabbed. He just calmly and quietly said to the man, "Let go." Jun Qiang let go for real? But with an incredibly rude expression, he laughed until he cried, saying to him, "He told me to let go. Did everyone hear that? This piece of trash is telling me to let go?" Liu Feng didn't say much. He waited for the man to finish talking, then decisively clenched his fist and punched him straight in the face. The man was immediately knocked out on the floor, his face deformed by the punch. Junqiang lay there unconscious with no chance to run his mouth and insult others to the astonished gazes of the onlookers. What? Liu Feng went back to Kang Jing, held up one finger and said to him, I'll test again. Seeing his decisiveness, Kang Si and Xiao Jin in the back jumped up and cheered for Liu Feng together. Great punch! Just as things were getting exciting, a pair of long, slender legs in silver high heels walked toward the testing area. A girl with a hot body and long, fiery red hair waved her hand. What's all the noise about? Who was just fighting? Have you all forgotten the rule against fighting in the guild hall? Tofi stepped forward, beautiful and powerful looking, at the clueless men causing trouble here and asked, Are you all looking for a beating? But when the men saw it was her, their attitudes changed. They all looked at her like they were seeing fine wine and delicious meat, looking extremely lecherous. When Kang Si saw who had arrived, he also had a look of admiration. Xiao Jin on his shoulder also craned his neck to admire her. It's Lady Tofi! Liu Feng also had an infatuated look on his face, unable to take his eyes off her, thinking to himself, so seductive. Just then Tofi stood there with her arms crossed, stylishly looked toward Liu Feng and asked him, Are you the ones who started the trouble? And he closed his eyes, pointed at the unconscious Junqiang on the ground and said, He was the one who started it. We were just acting in self-defense. But Kang Jing quickly ran over and whispered something in Tofi's ear. Tofi looked at the man on the ground who had several broken teeth and was foaming at the mouth from his punch. Someone with no battle aura and no magic wants to apply for mercenary status. I've never heard of such a thing before. Liu Feng remained calm upon hearing her words. He held up one finger and said to Tofi, To become a mercenary, the important thing is to have strength. I think I've already proven that a little. Hearing his confident words made her gaze soften slightly. Tofi seductively brought her pinky to her lips and said, That's right. Strength is the most important thing. With strength you have everything. With that she gently turned to face Liu Feng ready and said to him, If the testing stone can't measure your strength, then I'll test you myself. Liu Feng looked at the beautiful girl opposite him, his face serious as he asked in response to Tofi's beckoning hand gesture, You'll test me. Tofi tossed her long, fiery red hair to one side, her face quite confident as she told him, If you can defeat me, I'll give you your mercenary qualification. If you lose, then get out. I hate useless people who only know how to talk big but have no real strength. Hearing Tofi's rather disrespectful words, Liu Feng shifted his feet slightly. Fine, you're the manager after all. He looked straight at the girl opposite him, his gaze unwavering, and asked, But didn't you just say fighting is forbidden here? Tofi lowered her stance, slightly frowning at him with a look of annoyance, and reminded him, In this place I am the rules. The onlookers quickly dragged Junqiang back. Kang Si had a nosebleed and looked dazed. The great Lady Tofi is so cool. Whether emotionally or logically, I should support Brother Liu, but I'm a loyal fan of Lady Tofi. I don't want Lady Tofi to lose. It's such a hard choice. Xiao Jin on his shoulder immediately spoke up aggressively, giving Kang Si some philosophical advice. How can a man be so indecisive, unable to distinguish between his own people and outsiders? A man must follow his original intentions. But his lecherous expression revealed a look of absolute admiration as he gazed infatuatedly at Tofi, startling Kang Si. Lady Tofi will definitely win. Go Lady Tofi. Whose side are you on anyway? Tofi gave Liu Feng time to prepare. After he grabbed the hilt of the sword on his back, she asked, Are you ready? Yes. Getting her answer, Tofi quickly attacked first, wanting to seize the initiative. She held a small dagger, and in an instant was right in front of Liu Feng, aiming precisely at him as he stood there and thrusting forward. Kang Si was worried and alarmed, and Xiao Jin covered both his eyes, not daring to look at the supposedly bloody scene. Be careful. This is Lady Tofi's specialty surprise attack. She flashed past, cutting into what looked like Liu Feng's body. But unfortunately it was cut into 3 pieces, looking more like a shadow than a real person. Tofi looked back in shock, only then realizing she had missed. The man was still unharmed, having jumped to one side. He could dodge that. She quickly changed direction, her eyes flashing, and slashed out. But once again she only hit Liu Feng's afterimage. Tofi looked at him, his whole body glowing with a blue light and his speed astonishingly fast, and bit her lip. He can effortlessly dodge my attacks. Just how strong is he? She calmed down, chanted a spell around her body, and her hair floated up into the air. To defeat him, I'll have to use that move. Liu Feng grimaced as he dodged one of Tofi's attacks. He thought to himself, An illusion? It feels like her speed has suddenly increased. In an instant she was back in her original position, her gaze still fixed on him, but the battle aura around her had changed significantly. Liu Feng carefully observed Tofi. A large amount of energy emanated from her body. It seemed she was using some kind of secret art to increase her speed. He wouldn't hold back anymore, nor would he be blinded by her seductive beauty. What a crazy woman, willing to do anything to win. I have to stop her. At that moment she began to channel more and more magic, her eyes glowing with an unusual light, before she shot forward, attacking with what seemed to be a dangerous magical technique. But Liu Feng managed to stop her. He slid close to Toffee, turning the pommel of his sword toward her chest. Toffee froze, looking down at the sword pommel just a short distance from her body. Liu Feng looked at her, frowning, his expression serious as he told her, "Stop. Is it necessary to use a technique that harms your own body like that?" But Toffee was surprised, her beautiful eyes staring at Liu Feng as she asked, "You could tell." He stood up to face Toffee and heard her calmly and cheerfully accept defeat. "I lost." Liu Feng sheathed his sword behind his back. He tilted his head slightly to one side and said to Toffee, "Looks like I can get my mercenary qualification now." At this, Toffee leaned a little closer to him and seductively told Liu Feng the answer, "Of course. But besides, the mercenary qualification, is there anything else you want?" The scene changes to Toffee's room. She sat on a large chair, resting her long legs on a table with a golden statue, and asked, "Mr. Liu, it's just the two of us here. If you have any requests, just say them." Liu Feng didn't understand what she was trying to say. He crossed his arms and looked at Toffee blankly. Requests? What requests? Then he seriously and carefully thought over everything she had just said. This woman was so fierce just now, but now she's striking such a seductive pose. There's definitely something wrong. Liu Feng tilted his head to glance at her, then waved his hand and nonchalantly stated his purpose. "I only came here today for the mercenary qualification. I'm not interested in anything else." Toffee lightly touched her index finger to her lips, looking at him with her beautiful, moist eyes. "Not even interested in me." Liu Feng placed both hands on the table, his eyes smiling as he teased her back. "You and I are strangers? How could I be interested in you? No more joking around." Liu Feng's face turned serious as he returned to his main point. "Lady Toffee, please keep your word and grant me my mercenary qualification." Toffee didn't expect him to be so serious. Her eyes showed a hint of annoyance, but she gradually became serious as well. "All right, you've passed the assessment." Liu Feng was quite surprised to hear her announcement. He backed away in alarm and looked at Toffee. What kind of assessment was that? She slammed her hand on the table with a bang, startling Liu Feng's fragile little heart. She stood up, leaning forward to stare at Liu Feng opposite her. "I want to invite you to join our night corps." "Your night corps? What do you mean?" Toffee raised her hand, her confident voice beginning to explain from the start. "Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Toffee, one of the heirs to the mercenary guild. Each heir has their own mercenary course. The night course is the mercenary course I founded myself. I need a strong assistant like you." She also made her opinion of Liu Feng very clear, which surprised him a bit, and he asked blankly, "Your character and strength are both not bad. Just join and you can name any conditions you have." "Did you recruit the other members of the night corps like this?" Hearing his question, Toffee showed a look of displeasure and snorted coldly. "The others were all bastards who just lusted after my beauty. They basically wouldn't listen to my control, so I fired them." She placed her hands on her hips, her body curvaceous, but her voice was very powerful. "If you agree to join the position of captain, will be yours. Every month, besides a fixed salary, you'll also get priority in choosing missions. Mission rewards." But as soon as Toffee finished listing the position's privileges, Liu Feng awkwardly scratched his head and told her, "Sorry, I'm not interested." "Why? The conditions I'm offering are very generous." He thought to himself about the position Toffee offered, but didn't say it out loud to avoid offending her. Captain of the Night Corps, only an idiot would want that job. "Besides, I have more important things to do." Liu Feng coughed, lightly smiled, while glancing at her reaction, then found an excuse. "Sorry, I've already joined the Enterprise Mercenary course. I don't want to switch course right now." Hearing him, Toffee was so angry she gritted her teeth, but she couldn't say anything more. She knew she couldn't convince this person, so she placed the badge firmly on the table and said, "All right, I won't force you anymore. This is your 7th rank mercenary badge." Toffee rested her hand next to the badge, her expression still tense, and explained further, "Your strength cannot be measured by the testing stone. According to the rules, your ability can only be assessed and a badge granted based on the rank of the examiner. Right now, I'm only 7th rank, so I can only give you a 7th rank badge." Liu Feng picked up the badge, examined it carefully, then smiled happily at Toffee. "7th rank is enough." After saying that, he turned and left without hesitation, waving to Toffee as he neared the door. "Thank you. I'll be leaving now. Left alone in the room, Tofi angrily clenched her fist as she watched him leave. Liu Feng, I will remember you. Just you wait. I will definitely make you join the Night Corps. The scene changes to a somewhat grand house situated quietly in a forest. Kang Si stood there banging on the door loudly calling for the people inside while Liu Feng stood silently behind him, smiling. Alpha Beta, where are you guys? Come on out, we've become a C-rank mercenary corps. Come out and celebrate. But his only answer was silence. Kang Si was speechless, his anger boiling over. These guys must be secretly drinking behind my back again. Unable to wait any longer, he kicked the troublesome wooden door open and went inside. He didn't even close the door as he left. This is outrageous. But when they entered the house, they both froze on the spot at the scene inside. This is bad. The furniture inside was a mess, broken and overturned, and on the wall was a large message, "They are in my hands. Heitu." Liu Feng and Kang Se looked at the last two words of the message on the wall. Heitu. He repeated it, his brows furrowing even more tightly. Then Liu Feng bit his lip in indignation. Heitu, how could they be so arrogant? His hands clenched so tightly that his knuckles cracked. Liu Feng turned around, his aura startling both Kang Si and Xiaojin. I'm going to see that Heitu. At that moment, an arm slammed against the doorframe, blocking the way out. Kang Si blocked Liu Feng's path, trying to stop him and warn him of the danger. Brother Liu, don't go. The fantasy mercenary corps is very strong. Heitu is a peak 8th rank expert. They've definitely set up an ambush. He was sweating, and despite being very worried about his teammates, he still tried to calm him down. Baita's group has been taken. I can't let Brother Liu go to his death. I have to stop him. Going like this is just walking into a trap. Hearing Kang Si say this, Liu Feng's fists clenched even tighter, clearly showing the anger in his heart. Liu Feng looked at him with Xiaojin perched on his shoulder and asked Kang Si, are we just going to ignore Baita's group? No, we have to save them. Kang Si tried to stop him, his voice more urgent than ever. I'll go find the law enforcement team. The law enforcement team will definitely get justice for us. Liu Feng and Xiaojin both remained silent. He lowered his head, bit his lip and closed his eyes to think for a moment before calming down. To Xiaojin's surprise, he looked at Kang Si and agreed with what he said. All right, I'll listen to you, big brother Kang Si. It's getting late, let's wait until tomorrow to find the law enforcement team. Giving up just like that? Hearing him agree, he patted his shoulder encouragingly, but the look in his eyes was no better than Liu Feng's mood. Killing is strictly forbidden in Neverfall Fortress. Even if Heitu captured Beita's group, he wouldn't dare to kill them. I hope so. He advised him to calm down and encouraged him in various ways, but deep down, Kang Si was also extremely worried. He lowered his eyelids and said sadly, yeah, I hope so. Then Kang Si pulled Liu Feng and Xiaojin away from their house and into town. Let's go get something to eat. It's been a tough day, everyone's tired. The little dragon's eyes lit up when he heard the word eat. He immediately forgot everything that had just happened. What are we eating? What are we eating? Kang Si looked at Xiaojin's drooling face and sparkling eyes and asked him, Brother Liu, what do you want to eat? Meat, let's eat meat. He quickly changed the subject, looking at the excited Xiaojin on his shoulder and saying, all right, I'll let you taste my cooking. But only Liu Feng noticed something strange. He looked at him in silence, saying nothing. Night fell and the moon rose high, illuminating the world in place of the daytime sun. Liu Feng stood watching Kang Si and Xiaojin sleeping soundly against the wall after eating their fill. Beta Alpha, you guys better be okay. Then taking his sword, he silently left Kang Si's group's small house alone. He walked to the front of the Fantasy Mercenary Corps' luxurious headquarters. Fantasy Mercenary Corps headquarters. Someone was already waiting right in front of the gate. As soon as Liu Feng arrived, two dark figures immediately swooped down from above to attack him. He fell into their ambush. They shouted and pointed their weapons at Liu Feng, but he had already anticipated this and calmly fought them off barehanded. Just as Brother Kang Si said, they set up an ambush. He single-handedly took down all the ambushing lackeys, each with a single chop to the neck, not one extra blow. 3 ambushers, 3 chops, and all of them collapsed and lay scattered on the ground. Liu Feng looked around, and as he lifted his foot to continue walking, he noticed something sticky under his shoe. He looked down at the ground beneath his feet and was surprised to discover something unusual. Right on the ground, a magic formation lit up. He had accidentally stood right in the middle of it. Magic from within the formation surged up in waves, attacking Liu Feng. He quickly leaped high into the air, dodging just in time. Liu Feng flew up frowning as he looked down and thought to himself, this magic appeared so suddenly, the mage must be hiding nearby. He looked around in the sky for a while, searching for the mage who set the formation. Very quickly he discovered the man's hiding spot. Over there, in the air, Liu Feng reached behind his back and drew his sword. With a cold gaze, he brought his sword down on the base of the tree where the man was hiding. The tree was instantly split in two, and the mage was sent flying by the blow. Liu Feng landed on the ground, and as soon as the balls of his feet touched, his entire body stood firm. He held the holy sword in his hand, glanced around once, then called out provocatively, "Hai Tu, you only dare to send your subordinates to their deaths." When he swung his sword behind him, glanced toward a spot deep in the forest and smiled mockingly, "Is this all you've got?" Liu Feng stood proudly in the clearing, blade in hand. "All the rest of you fall back." He looked toward the wide-open city gate, which creaked eerily. "Your target is me, so come on, let's have a proper fight." Liu Feng held his weapon and decisively walked step by step toward the gate alone. The wind howled. He walked while looking around to observe, but all he saw was an empty space. Liu Feng was quite annoyed that he didn't dare to show his face and shouted a challenge. "Hey Tu, I'm here! Where are you hiding?" As soon as he finished speaking, from the rotten tree roots in the distance, a familiar voice slowly spoke. "I'm not hiding. I've always been right in front of you." Suddenly beneath him, a puddle of slimy mud-like substance appeared. Lifting one foot slightly, Liu Feng's expression changed, his eyes filled with anger. From within that greasy mud puddle, a mocking voice called out to him, "As expected, you're still so green, daring to walk in so arrogantly without a shred of caution." From one surprise to another, a group of people high above aimed their weapons straight at him. "I know you're very powerful, but right now all you can do is watch yourself die." The whole group laughed smugly at Liu Feng's pathetic situation. Down below, he could only grit his teeth and hold back, not wanting to be buried by a mere mud puddle. Liu Feng slashed wildly with his blade. "Damn it, this swamp must have been created by Hai Tu. I have to get out of here quickly. It's useless. If you can't hit my real body, any attack you make is futile." His slashes skimmed the surface of the mud puddle as he tried to find something. After a thorough search, Liu Feng gritted his teeth in extreme frustration. "Real body! Where on earth is he hiding?" Suddenly the group on the wall spoke up, and they all began to attack him. "Fire!" With no time to react, Liu Feng could only use his blade to shield himself as best he could. As if having a sixth sense, seeing that there was no movement around him, he slowly lowered his arm and opened his eyes to look around. The wall that was full of people moments ago was now completely empty. Liu Feng looked around in confusion. Where did everyone go? And seeing that no one was attacking anymore, an angry voice from the mud puddle ordered again. "Where is everyone? Fire!" From a distance, a long and sturdy leather whip appeared. It shot forward as fast as the wind. High above the person controlling the leather whip was Tofi. Liu Feng recognized the rather familiar voice, which made him open his eyes wide and look up. That voice sounds familiar. Liu Feng's hand quickly grabbed the whip and held it tight without slipping an inch. Just like that, with her dedicated help, he lifted both his feet out of the mud puddle. Seeing Liu Feng about to escape its control, the mud puddle transformed into a mudman, its mouth wide open. "Where do you think you're going?" And then the mudman shot up, its palm wide open, aiming straight for him. Seeing its hand about to get closer, Liu Feng raised his blade to defend. "Who said I was trying to run?" More, and as soon as he finished speaking, his sharp blade slashed down, splitting the mudman's body into many pieces. But it seemed to have no effect on it. In just a few seconds, the mudman's body reformed and hovered in the air. Liu Feng was annoyed, confused for a few seconds because he didn't expect it. It recovered so fast. In an instant, his feet landed on the ground thanks to Tofi's help. Still a bit dazed, he held the leather whip tightly and looked up toward where she was standing. Then Liu Feng looked at the group of people who were about to attack him earlier, now lying unconscious on the ground. "Did you do all this?" Seeing his confusion, Tofi put her hands on her hips, looked down at Liu Feng and explained, "A powerful sleeping drug." They all passed out in an instant. Below the city wall, the mudman rushed forward with its fists, intending to attack him. Below it was using all its strength, launching itself high into the air. The pieces of mud that made up the mudman's body continuously attacked both of them, but it didn't affect them. Although it was split into small pieces, it reformed quickly. Seeing that the mudman was difficult to deal with, Liu Feng became extremely angry. He gritted his teeth and muttered, "Every time it's broken apart, it immediately reforms. This mudman seems to be just a summon. Where on earth is Hai Tu hiding? How should I deal with him?" Hearing his name, Tofi turned her head slightly and suggested, "Hai Tu is hiding in the swamp. In the swamp he's nearly invincible, but if you destroy the swamp, he'll be helpless." Hearing her suggested plan, he widened his eyes and asked again, "Destroy the swamp?" Standing on the city wall, Tofi raised her arms straight and ice-like orbs shot past Liu Feng, rushing downward. In an instant, they turned into sharp ice shards, piercing straight into the mudman's body. In just a few seconds, it stood still, no longer moving, becoming an ice statue for the two to behold. Seeing how amazing her skill was, he widened his eyes, his voice full of praise. So strong. What was that? Toffee looked at Liu Feng with a fond gaze and said mockingly, "Of course it's a little gift I specially prepared for Heitu." Not wanting to drag things out standing on the city wall, Toffee spread her arms and commanded, "Heitu, if you don't show yourself now, you'll become an ice statue." As soon as she finished her demand, a hand emerged from beneath the ice. The thick layer of ice was shattered by Heitu. He slowly revealed himself from below. Heitu moved his body out of the ice, slowly advancing with frosty breath. His cold face and interrogating voice rang out, "Who on earth are you?" Tuffy didn't want to waste words on someone like Heitu, so she just answered perfunctorily, "Who I am isn't important. Besides, your opponent isn't me." As soon as she finished her introduction, Liu Feng leaped down from above his blade aimed straight at him below. Heitu was still not afraid, his voice confident and challenging. "You think that just by freezing the swamp I'll be afraid of you?" Seeing his attitude, he didn't want to say much either. Gripping the hilt of his blade with both hands, he charged, "Enough talk time to die!" An unexpected scene occurred. Heitu, who was just talking tough, was now kneeling on the ground. His head was bowed, and he continuously begged, before Liu Feng's sharp blade, "Friend, spare my life. We can negotiate anything." His swift change in demeanor left him stunned for a few seconds. "You even know how to change your tune that fast?" Heitu raised his head, held the blade that was at his neck, and said with a fond look, "Today was my fault, I apologize." As he spoke, he opened his palm and a flood of gold coins appeared. "If you need money or women, just say the word. You can have all the money I have on me." Liu Feng knew he had the upper hand and boldly demanded that Heitu release Beita's group. Dodging Liu Feng's sharp blade, he sprang to his feet and nodded. "No problem, no problem. This place still has the most valuable thing." From behind his back, Hak Tho pulled out a red scroll, inside which a blue magic circle flickered Godai. Betrayed by him and attacked in return, his eyes widened, his face filled with displeasure. Ignoring Hak Tho, who was using his ultimate move, Gale Speed, Liu Feng swept past him like the wind. As if having a third sense, he glanced back and panicked when he saw him. When did you get behind me?" As he lunged forward and plunged his blade through Hak Tho's chest, Liu Feng answered curtly, "You don't need to know." Just like that, he ended his own life for the crime of not keeping his word. The body lay face up on the cold ice, gone forever. Standing on the city wall, observing his every move, Tufai praised endlessly, "Nice moves." He looked up. "Who are you?" Seeing him keep asking, Tufi leaped down from above. "Don't be so tense, it's me." Taking off the mask that covered half of her face, she chided Liu Feng. "It's a good thing I arrived in time, or you would have been in big trouble." Her identity now clear to Fai shot forward like an arrow running towards him with open arms. "Little brother, big sister saved your life. How are you going to repay me?" Gripping his blade tightly, Liu Feng remained on guard, asking in confusion, "Why are you here? Why did you help me?" Without a second thought, she pointed a finger at him and said with a smile, "Of course it's because I've taken a liking to you. Hak To is treacherous and cunning. I don't want the leader I worked so hard to find to die in vain." Standing opposite to Fi, Liu Feng raised his blade horizontally, questioning, "I haven't even agreed to join your night order yet." Seeing that he seemed uncooperative, she spoke after a few seconds of thought. "Fine if you're going to be so heartless. Let's just settle our business." A long list of items Tufai had just used to assist Liu Feng was clearly listed. Special anesthetic potion. 200 gold coins per bottle. I used 5 bottles. Magic orbs used for freezing. Each one costs 100 gold coins. I used 30 of them. And then there's my appearance fee, 2,000 gold coins. Please pay up. Her move was so unexpected that he was stunned, shouting with his mouth wide open, "Wait a minute, your appearance fee?" Hearing this, Tufi moved her face close to Liu Feng's and repeated, "That's right, I'm a 7th rank mercenary and also the president of the Mercenary Guild. My appearance fee is very expensive. The total of all fees is 8,000. I can give you a discount to 7,000 coins." With a decisive move, she pressed the scroll with the bill against him, demanding, "Here's the bill, you can calculate it yourself." Holding the bill in his hand, Liu Feng slumped slightly and sighed wearily. "I don't have that much money." Knowing he was in a difficult position, Tufai, as if prepared beforehand, took out a piece of paper. "Then work for me to pay off your debt, be the leader of my night order." Seeing her keep backing him into a corner, he let out a long, tired sigh. However, not wanting to be shackled, Liu Feng raised his head high and declared, "I'll figure out a way for the money, but as for the night order, I don't want to join." Hearing that, Tu Fi chuckled softly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear and saying, "It's okay, we have plenty of time." The horse-drawn carriage stopped in front of a building. Liu Feng and Tu Fi stood in front of it talking. "The Delusion mercenary group, your friends, were all hypnotized by Hakto's magic. They don't know anything. You just need to take them back." She faced him, opened her palm, and gently reminded him, "I'll take care of the aftermath here from what just happened. Of course the fee will be added to your bill." Hearing this, Liu Feng, with a grateful gaze, said in an appreciative tone, "All right then. Thank you for this time. I used to think you were that kind of woman, but I didn't expect you to be not so bad after all." Hearing this, Tu Fi immediately crossed her arms, her tone interrogative. "That kind of woman? What kind?" Caught off guard by the question, Liu Feng scratched his head in embarrassment. "You know, that kind." Without a hint of anger, she closed her eyes and replied, "It's fine, many people think of me that way." Not stopping there with a confident posture, Tu Fi put her hands on her hips and declared, "To stand firm in the mercenary world full of men, you naturally have to face such slander. I'm used to it." Seeing her attitude, he was very impressed and immediately comforted her. "In my hometown there's a saying, the amount of praise you receive is proportional to the amount of slander you can endure. Miss Tu Fi, you're amazing." Tu Fi's eyes widened, a little surprised to hear praise from Liu Feng. "The amount of praise you receive is proportional to the amount of slander you can endure." Tu Fi's entire face flushed red and she shyly said her thanks. "Thank you for the compliment. You're the first person to understand me like this." Seeing Tu Fi's expression, he scratched his head and chuckled. "You're welcome." In response to that appreciation, she offered Liu Feng a special favor. "Then let me offer you this. I can take 1,000 gold coins off your bill." At the mention of money, his eyes lit up like headlights, brighter than the stars in the sky. "Really? My hometown actually has many more sayings like that. If I say a few more, can I get another discount?" Standing beside him, Tu Fi reminded him, "Don't say any more, it won't reduce the price." And just like that, Liu Feng activated his pleading mode. His voice echoed, even disturbing the horse that was grazing. "Just one more discount. I really can't reduce it any further." After teasing her for a while, they both fell silent, looked at each other, and burst out laughing. The atmosphere was incredibly cheerful. Suddenly Liu Feng held out an arm, his palm facing Tu Fi. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Tu Fi." His sudden action made her cheeks unexpectedly flush red. Without hesitation, Tu Fi raised her hand, a handshake to show her respect for him. "It's a pleasure to meet you too, Liu Feng." After a few seconds of thought, a question popped into her head. "So, are we friends now?" Liu Feng nodded in agreement without hesitation. "That's right, we're friends." The next morning, a sunny sky shone down on the roof of a familiar building. Kang Tu had his eyes tightly shut behind him, where Kachman Yifap and Boitap sound asleep. "Brother Liu, tell me the truth. Did you go to the Delusion mercenary group's place?" Liu Feng stood by the door, waving his left hand frantically. "Not at all. I didn't go anywhere last night. Boitap's group was brought here by carriage this morning." He cast a scheming glance towards Boitap's unconscious group. "In any case, they're back now. Hurry up and think of a way to wake them up." Kang Tu left Liu Feng there to watch over them and turned to leave the room. "That's right. They've been hit by a deep sleep spell. I'll go get a mage to dispel the magic. You stay here and watch the house. I'll be back in a bit." Standing alone in the room, he recalled the time he was blocked by Hakto's mud men. "Just as Hakto said, my combat experience is still insufficient. I need more real combat." Just thinking about it made his face break out in sweat. Liu Feng stroked his chin, trying to figure something out. "Where can I find someone to train with, who's free and can take a punch? Train with?" An idea flashed in his mind, and he immediately ran off to execute it. "That's right, I can try this." He used his internal energy and the skills he had learned. In an instant, an exact copy of Liu Feng appeared, mirror image clone. Looking at his own clone opposite him, after a moment of observation, he exclaimed in admiration, "It looks exactly like me." With someone to train with standing opposite him, Liu Feng immediately ordered the clone, "Attack me now." The command was executed, and the clone's hand shot straight towards his face. "But with my current internal energy, I can only maintain the clone for 3 minutes. It seems that in a real fight, I can only use it at a critical moment to catch the opponent off guard." As Liu Feng thought, he grabbed the clone's arm with one hand. "The clone only has about 30% of my strength. The advantage is that it's obedient and not afraid of getting hurt, so it can barely be considered a training partner." Then he drew back his arm and struck the clone's face with his elbow. While he was training intensely, Kang Tu suddenly rushed in from the door shouting Liu Feng's name. "Brother, Liu, something's happened. The delusion mercenary group, everyone disappeared overnight. Now the whole city is talking about it. Seeing two identical versions of him in front of his eyes, he widened his eyes in panic. Two brother Lius. Kang Tu quickly rubbed his eyes hard with both hands, trying to calm himself down. Am I still drunk? And as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Liu Feng standing next to him. Big brother Kang Tu, what's wrong? He was stunned once again. I really am still drunk. Remembering the issue from before, Kang Tu opened his mouth wide and announced without hesitation, the delusion mercenary group, everyone disappeared overnight. Just as he finished speaking, a pair of feet slowly advanced, the sound of footsteps echoing around. Attracted by the sound, he instinctively turned his head and demanded loudly, Who's there? A person in a black cloak strode majestically towards them. The person's demeanor made Kang Tu think to himself, what an oppressive feeling. This person is so strong. Without wasting words, the black-cloaked person addressed Liu Feng. Liu Feng, I know what you did. Come with me. Being ordered by a stranger, he stood there stunned for a few seconds. Seeing the appearance of the black-cloaked person, Kang Tu frowned in confusion and asked loudly, Who are you? What do you want with Brother Liu? Seeing that Kang Tu was being too nosy, the person stated bluntly, Kang Tu, this has nothing to do with you. If you don't want the Enterprise mercenary group to disappear from now on, then don't interfere. Offended by the black-cloaked person's attitude, he frowned and gritted his teeth in anger. You! To stop Kang Tu's anger, Liu Feng patted him hard on the shoulder from behind. The opponent is here for me, so I should handle this. This sudden request stunned Kang Tu. Brother Liu, not stopping there, Liu Feng moved his mouth close to his ear and whispered a few things. The opponent doesn't have good intentions. If we fight here, I'm afraid it will affect Boitap's group. I'll go with him. Even if he wants to cause trouble with my strength, it won't be hard to escape. The conversation between the three was being watched by a bird in a tree. The black-cloaked person didn't want to waste time reminding and urging them immediately. Are you done with your small talk? After they finished their private talk, he sheathed his blade on his back and instructed the two, I'm leaving now. You guys wait here for my return. Teo Kim, in his small, transformed body, clamored and shouted for Liu Feng. You have to come back soon. You promised to take me to the market today. Liu Feng bent down, slightly smiled, and gently patted Teo Kim's head affectionately. No problem. On the side, Kang Tu tried to suppress his emotions, patted his shoulder lightly, and advised, Brother Liu, you must be careful. Liu Feng was very grateful. I will. A while later, he and the black-cloaked person arrived at a grassland-like area where the wind blew relentlessly. Liu Feng slid his feet hard on the green grass, trying to use his leg strength to keep himself steady. Right after the black-cloaked person turned his head to look at Liu Feng, who was following behind him. This place will do. Any further ahead is the Beastmen's territory. Hearing this with extreme curiosity, he asked loudly from behind about the other person's identity. May I ask who you are? Without hiding anything, the black-cloaked person slowly took off the cloak he had been wearing. It was none other than him, a rather familiar person, behind that jet-black mask. I am Aohash, the leader of the law enforcement team of Natbat Lakyutak. Aohash's introduction stunned Liu Feng for a few seconds. Leader of the law enforcement team. What are you looking for me for? Without hiding it, he chuckled and stated his purpose for finding him. Little brother, your strength is outstanding. I wonder which master on the continent you are a disciple of. How about we become friends? Liu Feng remained quite clear-headed. He silently lowered his head, thinking to himself, there's no such thing as flattery for no reason. This definitely isn't anything good. Could it be that he wants to find out my background? After a few seconds of thought, Liu Feng chuckled and replied to Aohash, I'm so sorry. My master dislikes my lack of ability and forbids me from revealing his great name to outsiders. Seeing it was difficult to get information from someone as shrewd as Liu Feng, he immediately lowered his tone. If you don't want to say, then I won't force you. Let's talk about something else. Aohash's face appeared filled with anger. What's the delusion mercenary group's matter you're doing? The sudden question left him completely bewildered, frozen for a few seconds. Trying to pull himself together, Liu Feng asked back with an annoyed look in his eyes, Leader Aohash, why would you say that? On the grassy plain, Aohash began to analyze. The delusion mercenary group disappeared without a trace overnight. Other than being wiped out, I can't think of a more plausible reason. And recently, among those who had conflicts with the delusion mercenary group, you are the most suspicious. Hearing this, he immediately understood the issue. A key question Liu Feng raised was, Leader Aohash, everything requires evidence. You say I'm the culprit, so where's the proof? He didn't seem to care much about the question. His hand grasped the hilt of his sword and gently drew it. In less than a few seconds, a sharp blade was unsheathed by Auhach and swept past him. Proof. You work very cleanly, it's true. I couldn't find any clues at the scene. But no evidence doesn't mean I can't convict you. Then he pointed the tip of his sword decisively at Liu Feng. I just need to kill you, and whether you're the real culprit or not, you will bear all the charges. Witnessing what Auhach was doing, he spoke in a contemptuous tone. Leader Auhach, is this how the leader of the law enforcement team upholds justice? Not stopping, Liu Feng lowered his head slightly and reproached in a low voice. No wonder the delusion mercenary group could run rampant in Nyatbatlakyutak for so many years. He heard it, but seemed to ignore it, even smirking smugly to himself. Uphold justice? Whoever has the bigger fist is justice. If you can't beat me, then of course I'm on the side of justice. Looking at the sharp blade opposite him, he calmly made a proposal. Before we fight, I want to confirm something. Are you at the peak of the 9th rank in strength? Auhach didn't hide it, raising his sword forward and confirming with a smile. That's right, I am indeed at the peak of the 9th rank. Could it be that you're scared? As he drew the blade from his back, Liu Feng's face darkened, and he said in a low voice, Very good. If I can beat you, then I can go get my revenge. He didn't want to waste time charging towards him with his sword like a flash. Enough with the useless talk. Make your move! A cold slash swept past Liu Feng. Luckily, his reflexes were fast and he dodged it cleanly. Gale speed! With lightning speed, Liu Feng was instantly behind Auhach, his blade raised high. Auhach's reflexes were quite agile. He quickly turned with his sword towards the tip of the blade. A force so strong it was like a bright spark. Liu Feng's eyes widened. He knew he was in danger and immediately swung his blade forward to block Auhach's attack. Although he had attacked with all his might, when Liu Feng counterattacked, his footing was still slightly off. Holding his blade and looking at Auhach, his face was lightly covered in sweat. What terrifying power! It was the same for him. He lowered his head in annoyance, yet his mouth still praised Liu Feng to be able to withstand a full power strike from my sword. Your ability has surpassed my imagination. Moreover, your sword is no ordinary object either. But it seems you still can't make it unleash its true power. What a pity. Then he looked at Liu Feng's jet-black blade opposite him. It's truly strange. The power you use is neither battle chi nor magic. Auhach didn't hesitate, advancing quickly with his sword, laughing with delight as he charged. That movement technique of yours that suddenly disappears is also extremely special. I'm getting more and more interested in you. Without any hesitation, he swiped his sword lightly across his face, the move looking incredibly swift and clean. But unexpectedly, Liu Feng effortlessly launched himself to stand behind Auhach. Furious, he swung his sword down hard on the green grassy ground. The slash headed straight for him. Liu Feng had to retreat slightly to dodge the attack. Observing the situation, he gaped in worry, thinking to himself non-stop, Such a fast attack! I have to conserve my internal energy. With this move left, I can only meet force with force. Liu Feng quickly used his blade to shield his body, gritting his teeth to defend. Suddenly, Auhach's sword stopped its attack and was plunged hard into the ground. He stood opposite him, the wind rustling, and opened his mouth to emphasize, I understand now. Auhach's eyes widened as he looked at Liu Feng and analyzed what he had just done. You were able to take that strike of mine because you have a way to instantly increase your power. His words made Liu Feng break out in a light sweat, utterly surprised. How could he see through that? Not stopping there, Auhach lowered his head slightly and analyzed further. And your strange movement technique, although its effect is not bad, it seems you can't use it at will. It seems there's a limit to its usage, or it requires a large amount of power. Just as he finished speaking, Auhach's entire body was enveloped in red flames. Looks like I didn't guess wrong. Although your power is strange, it's not too hard to figure out. And your fighting skills are nothing like mine. A suit of blazing red fire armor enveloped his body, burning brightly. The warm-up is over. I have to go all out now. Standing opposite and observing the development, he was bewildered, his mouth agape in shock. This is... With the sturdy armor on his body, Auhach introduced, This is something only a peak 9th rank expert possesses battle chi armor. He looked at Liu Feng opposite him, not forgetting to warn him. Use your full strength, or you will really die. Raising the sharp blade in his hand, Liu Feng showed no fear. He stepped forward, declaring, All right then, let's have a proper fight.